Chapter 644. The more than 40 items could not be sold in a short period of time. Every item the great Buddhist temple put up was a rare fruit with many miraculous uses. There were too many family representatives here today. Therefore, every auction would be intense, and it would take some time. Towards the end, the fruits would be more precious and the competition would be fiercer. Every deal would take the time for several incense sticks to burn. At noon, they rested for a while. Monks would serve fruits to appease their hunger. Everyone here was a powerful warrior. They could go without food and water for a month. The lunch break was to let them know that the real auction was about to begin in the afternoon. None of the fruits taste good. When a monk came in, Prajna hid behind Luli. Luli wondered if the monk had seen her. Prajna looked at the red fruits and pouted. Her ring glowed as she took out 2 white fruits. She handed one to Luli and said, "Brother, try this. It's delicious." Luli took it over and took a bite. He felt the fragrance in his mouth, and a surge of warmth spread through his body. He felt so comfortable. He asked with curiosity, "Prajna, what kind of fruit is this?" Prajna took a few bites and said with a muffled voice, "This is sacrificial fruit. Not even the temple is willing to sell it." Sacrificial fruit? Gu Min and the patriarch of the Gu family were startled. They stared at the fruit in Lu Li's hand, almost drooling. Lu Li noticed their expressions. He asked in confusion, "What is it? Is it precious?" Gu Min swallowed and said, "One fruit is worth at least 3 million purple Xian crystals. Do you think it is precious or not? The thing is, it is priceless. The great Buddhist temple does not sell it. 3 million purple Xian crystals?" Luli was taken aback. 3 million purple Xian crystals was equivalent to 30 billion Xian crystals. How could he eat 30 billion Xian crystals in a few bites? This is good. Luli noticed that the surge of warmth was making his body stronger. The energy was also flowing into his soul, strengthening it. Luli still wanted more after he finished the fruit. Prajna noticed Lu Li's expression. She smiled sweetly and said, "Brother, I don't have any more Buddha sacrificial fruit. My master said I can only eat one a day. That's why I only brought 2 with me. I'll bring a few more for you next time." Luli was a bit embarrassed after eating the fruit, which was worth 30 billion Xian crystals. He waved his interspatial ring and said in a low voice, "Prajna, you fed me the fruit. I will give you a present as well. See if there's anything you like inside and tell Big Brother." "Really?" Hanya's eyes lit up. She carefully looked at the ring and said, "Big Brother, that white beast is very cute. Can you give it to Hanya?" Luli was speechless. This little nun had sharp eyes. None of his treasures could compare to Little White's. Of course, he couldn't give Little White away. He smiled bitterly and said, "You can't give that little beast away. It's Big Brother's spirit beast." Oh, it's Hanya who was rude. There was a hint of regret in Hanya's eyes. She looked around and said excitedly, "Big Brother, I want that jade scepter." Luli used psychic power to check. It was just a holy grade weapon. He didn't know who got it from. He took it out, gave it to Hanya, and said, "This is for you." Hanya was overjoyed. The jade scepter was of a warm yellow color, and the carving was beautiful. It was as long as a palm, perfect for her. Hanya liked it very much. She would smile sweetly at Luli every now and then and said, "Thank you. I like it very much. Oh, I don't know your name yet." Luli thought about it and lowered his head. He whispered to Hanya's ear, "I will tell you, but don't tell anyone. My name is Luli. It's you?" Hanya's eyes glowed even more. She looked at Luli with admiration and said, "I have heard many stories about you. You are so awesome. I want to be as awesome as you when I grow up." Luli smiled and wanted to pat Prajna's head. However, he remembered that she was a nun and it was inappropriate to touch her bald head. He pinched her face and said, "Prajna, when you grow up, you will be better than me." While they were chatting, the auction in the afternoon began. It was still Evil Punisher. Evil Punisher seemed to be less than 20 years old, but he had reached the peak of the noble lord realm. He must be the most talented among the young generation of the great Buddhist temple. The great Buddhist temple had put him on the stage to show off their resources. The auction in the afternoon was of a higher level. there were more mystical fruits. Sometimes, tens of thousands of mystical fruits would be auctioned together. The prices would be sky high. In the morning, most of the mystical fruits were bought by guests in private rooms. In the afternoon, there was nothing for guests in private rooms to bid. It was the disciples of the major families on the lotus seats that made the bids. The scene became heated. Some young masters even removed the shield on the lotus seats when they were bidding. They stood out in a showy manner, as if they were afraid that people wouldn't recognize them. Thanks to Gu Min's introduction, Luli got to know many disciples of major families, such as the future family patriarch of the Iksha race, the future master of the Life League, and the most beautiful young lady of the Palace of Immortals' Inquiries. As more and more items were sold, Luli was getting more excited. At dusk, there were only 3 items left. The finale was here. The 16 fairy lucid Ganoderma were brought up, each of them the size of a human being. The fairy lucid Ganoderma was sparkling, and there was a faint glow coming out from inside. Even an idiot could tell that it was a treasure. There was one thing that the great Buddhist temple hated. The mystical fruits and mystical herbs were sold together. The 16 fairy lucid Ganoderma could be bought together or none at all. The fairy lucid Ganoderma could increase the chances of a warrior reaching the human sovereign realm. Naturally, it was valuable. The price was appalling. The base price was 200 million purple Xian crystals. Apart from the royal families, no other families had a chance to get their hands on it. 200 million. The Life League made an offer first. All the major families wanted the fairy lucid Ganoderma. The 16 fairy lucid Ganoderma could make it to 6 human sovereign realm warriors, let alone 16. 300 million. A pleasant voice came. Luli raised his eyebrows and was delighted. Was Ji Mingtian making an offer? If Ji Mingtian could get the fairy lucid Ganoderma, then she wouldn't have enough money to compete with him for the Bodhi fruit. 350 million. Another familiar voice was heard. It was Lu Xuan. Luli could understand. Since Lu Jingyang was in a coma, the Lu family had lost a lot of powerful warriors. The Lu family was in dire need of more powerful warriors. It was normal for Lu Xuan to fight for the fairy lucid Ganoderma. 400 million. Ji Mingtian shouted again. She had raised the price so fast that it made everyone boil. They were fortunate to witness the wealth of the 12 royal families. 500 million. A voice came from a lotus seat. It was a pleasant voice of a lady. Many people looked over in surprise. It was the lotus seat where the tumulus of universe was located. Yiyu. Luli was familiar with this voice. Yi Luo didn't say anything, but he asked Yiyu to do it. Also, they were going to compete for the fairy lucid Ganoderma. Chapter 645. 600 million. 700 million. 800 million. The price kept rising. When Ji Mingtian made another high bid of 800 million, everyone quieted down. Yi said nothing else. Lu Xuan only made one bid as well. The high price of 800 million scared the disciples of the small families at the south. Evil Punisher put on a smile. The price of 800 million had exceeded their target. He put his palms together, bowed to Ji Mengtian's lotus seat, and said, "Almsgiver Ji, a woman is as good as a man. I think you're destined to meet this batch of fairy Ganoderma." Evil Punisher's words were sincere, but it was a silent provocation. After a moment, the future master of the Life League shouted again, "I will add another 100 million. This time, it was Ji Mengtian's turn to say nothing. The price was beyond the Samsara Palace's budget. But the Samsara Palace valued this batch of fairy Ganoderma because there were some noble Lord Realm warriors of the Samsara Palace that were about to reach the human sovereign realm. After some thoughts, she made up her mind and shouted again, 1 billion. This time, nobody else made a bid. Ji Mingtian got the 16 fairy Ganoderma under the watchful eyes of many. The Samsara Palace deserved its reputation as the most powerful force of the Central Plains. Okay, Luli was delighted. Ji Mingtian must not be able to compete for the Bodhi fruit after she made such a high bid. He had one less competitor. Yang Xian of the Hades Society spent hundreds of millions to get several fruits. He must not have many Xian crystals left. Lu Xuan didn't make many bids. He was a rival, and Dai Feiyu wouldn't come for the fruits. It was more likely that Lu Swan would get the Bodhi fruit. Congratulations, almsgiver Ji. Evil Punisher bowed to Ji Mengtian's lotus seat, pointed to a jade box held by a monk, and said, "Now, the second last fruit, Bodhi fruit. It is not easy for the Bodhi fruit to grow. It will only bear fruit once every hundreds of years. The Bodhi tree is also known as the tree of enlightenment. The Bodhi fruit contains natural Taoist rhythm, which is helpful for people to learn profound meanings. It also has powerful detoxification abilities and many other uses. The temple will let you know the specific uses after the auction. Now, the Bodhi fruit starts at 100 million purple Xian crystals. The Bodhi fruit can help people learn profound meanings. Lu Li only wanted the Bodhi fruit to detoxify by Qiu Xue. Little did he know that the fruit had so many miraculous effects. However, since this fruit was placed in the second last auction, it was naturally not an ordinary spirit fruit. The starting price of 100 million proved the value of this thing. Lu Li was excited, but he didn't show it on his face. He didn't make a bid either. He was just nervously watching the situation outside. The Bodhi fruit seemed to be unpopular. After Evil Punisher made his announcement, only the Palace of Heaven's Roars offered 100 million and nobody said anything. Lu Li was excited. Could it be that everyone was waiting for the Dragon Breath fruit, so they didn't want to waste their Xian crystals on the Bodhi fruit? 200 million. The voice of a middle-aged man rang out. Countless gazes swept over, only to see the word by written on the lotus platform. Many people did not understand which family was bidding, but they were sure that it was not the royal family. Lu Li looked at Gu Min, who moved closer, and explained in a low voice, "This is the Bai family from the southeast. It is a family with a history of more than 10,000 years, a 7th rank one. It used to be famous in Middle Prefecture, but there seemed to be some problems in recent years." The one from the Palace of Heaven's Roars made another bid, 250 million. This time, the bids were not high and there were no other families competing. Lu Li was a bit relieved, but he still didn't intend to make a move. Yi Luo didn't make another bid either. He seemed to have made the same decision as Lu Li. Either he didn't bid or he would get the fruit. 300 million. The Bai family made another bid. He sounded determined, as if he would get the fruit at all costs. The Bai family was so determined that the Palace of Heaven's Roars didn't make another bid after a moment of silence. They might be ready to give up on the Bodhi fruit. Time moved on. Lu Li still didn't make a move. He was waiting for Yi Luo to do it for him. After all, he was sitting in a private room, and he was a disciple of the small Gu family. If he made a bid, it would attract attention. 300 million going once, 300 million going twice. When Evil Punisher made the second bid, Yi Luo finally said, 400 million. Seeing that Lu Li didn't make a move, Yi Yu made another bid. As soon as Yi Yu made the bid, the auction became lively again. Since a royal family was making a move, it would be impossible for the Bai family to only make one bid. Lu Li had thought that the Bodhi fruit was going to be won by the Bai family. Inside a lotus seat, Ji Mengtian and Dai Feiyu were sitting. The lotus seat was spacious enough for 3 or 4 people. Ji Mengtian looked to the private room Lu Li was in through the shield and said with mockery, "Finally, the fox has shown his tail. Is it really Lu Li?" Dai Feiyu was still skeptical. After all, Gu Fenglu and Lu Li were so different in appearance. She had checked many times but never found any trace of disguise on Lu Li. Therefore, she was not sure. "I think so." Ji Mengtian smiled again. If Yi Luo and Gu Fenglu didn't make a move, then she would be wrong. Now that Yi Yu had made a bid, there was no doubt about it. Dai Feiyu thought about it and said, "Then, are you going to bid for the Bodhi fruit to repay Lu Li?" "No." Ji Mengtian smiled mysteriously and said, "I will not make a move. What is more, I don't have many Xian crystals left. I can't make a high bid. Just wait and see." "Sure." Dai Feiyu thought about it and said, "It is better to squash enmity than keep it alive. Lu Li is a lunatic. I don't think we should offend him." "Ha." Ji Mengtian smiled mysteriously again and said nothing else. After Yi Yu made the bid of 400 million, The Bai family paused for a bit, as if they were hesitating about whether they should go all out against the Yi family. Lu Li's heart was burning with passion. It would be best if he could get the Bodhi fruit with 400 million purple Xian crystals. Time moved on. Lu Li was getting more and more nervous. He wished Evil Punisher could announce the end of the auction. After a while, the Bai family made another bid. Even though it was only 10 million, Lu Li wanted to smash the table. "Brother, you want the Bodhi fruit?" Prajna asked with curiosity, seeing how nervous Lu Li was. Lu Li nodded. Prajna said with pity, "There's only one Bodhi fruit. Otherwise, I can ask my master for one for you." Lu Li was not in the mood to talk to Prajna. He forced a smile. Prajna said again, "Brother, why don't you bid? You don't have enough Xian crystals?" "Prajna, I have some that I can lend to you." Lu Li felt touched, but he didn't continue the conversation. He just shook his head. Prajna didn't know the inside story. If he made a bid, the situation would be worse. As for the fact that Prajna said she had some Xian crystals, Lu Li ignored it. How many Xian crystals could a little girl of 5 or 6 years old have? 500 million. Yi made a firm bid, as if he was enraged by the Bai family. He was determined to get the Bodhi fruit. Chapter 646. According to common sense, a 7th-rank family shouldn't compete with the royal family. After all, the royal family was resourceful. What was more, if the royal family bore a grudge and played some tricks, the 7th-rank family would be in serious trouble. However, the Bai family increased the price by 10 million Xian crystals, 510 million. Lu Li frowned. He wondered if the Bai family was instructed by someone else. Otherwise, they wouldn't have the courage to offend the Yi family. What? It was noisy at the south as well. The patriarch of the Gu family listened for a while and said to Lu Li, "Someone said, the Bai family patriarch is poisoned. He is the only warrior of the earth immortal realm in the Bai family." So, Lu Li frowned. He listened to the noise at the south. Sure enough, people were talking. Lu Li heard that the Bai family patriarch was poisoned. The Bai family was going to offer all they had and borrow some Xian crystals to buy the Bodhi fruit. It was easy to understand. A 7th-rank family might have some human sovereign realm warriors, but not many Earth Immortal Realm warriors. If there were 3 Earth Immortal Realm warriors, then it would be an 8th-rank family. Earth Immortal Realm warriors were important to the Bai family. It was normal that the Bai family would risk everything to get the Bodhi fruit at the cost of offending the Yi family. There was no conspiracy. Of course, what if the information was fake? What if Ji Mingtian and Lu Xuan released it to confuse others? What if the Bai family was a pawn of Ji Mingtian and Lu Xuan? Soon, Yi said in a gentle voice, 700 million. Every time, Yi would increase the price by 100 million to show her determination. She wanted the Bai family to give up. Lu Li was grateful. He and Yi Luo were just friends. Lu Li was regarded as an enemy by the 4 families. Even the Pavilion of Delicacy refused to do business with him. Lu Li didn't give Yi Luo a single Xian crystal. Now, Yi Luo had offered 700 million purple Xian crystals. What if Lu Li couldn't afford it? What if Lu Li was killed after he took the Bodhi fruit? Soon, another voice came from the Bai family. 10 million more. Everyone quieted down. There was no more discussion or exclamation. The atmosphere was suffocating. The 16 fairy mushrooms were only sold for 1 billion purple Xian crystals. Now, one Bodhi fruit was worth 700 million. If it was a battle between 2 royal families, it would be understandable. But now, it was the Bai clan challenging the Yi clan. Many people were worried that the Yi clan would fly into a rage. 1 billion. As expected, a male voice with a hint of anger rang out. Yi Luo had raised the price by 300 million purple Xian crystals in one go. This meant that he was already very unhappy. If the Bai clan continued to raise the price, it would be a slap to the Yi clan's face. The atmosphere became even more oppressive. Once the royal family was enraged, blood would flow for thousands of miles. The Bai family might not even be able to return home. Lu Li held the chair tightly and stared at the lotus seat of the Bai family. Everyone else was looking at him, waiting for the decision of the Bai family. Buzz! The light shield on the Bai clan's lotus flower stage disappeared. A middle-aged martial emperor cupped his hands towards Yi Luo and said, "Young Master Yi, my father is critically ill and urgently needs the Bodhi fruit to save his life. So my apologies. I will add another 10 million. After this matter, Byron will personally go to Heaven and Earth City and let the Yi clan deal with him." The crowd was in an uproar. The Bai family human sovereign realm warrior was so humble and stated that he needed the Bodhi fruit to save his life, and he was willing to go to Heaven and Earth City to apologize. If Yi Luo continued to raise the price, it would affect the reputation of the Yi family. Yi Luo quieted down. After a while, the light shield on the lotus flower stage disappeared. Yi Luo looked at the Bai family human sovereign realm warrior first, then to the crowd, and then to Lu Li without leaving a trace. Alas! Lu Li sighed to himself. He knew Yi Luo had tried his best. It would be heartless of Yi Luo to say anything under such circumstances. He was not afraid of being criticized, but the Yi family needed to save face. Therefore, Yi Luo looked at the Bai family human sovereign realm warrior. He nodded and said, "Yi family gives up. Young Master Yi, you are mighty. Young Master Yi, you are so kind and righteous," many people shouted. Many young ladies looked at Yi Luo with infatuation. Just now, Yi Luo had already flown into a rage. When he heard that the Bai family human sovereign realm warrior was trying to save his father, he calmly said he would give up. Many admired his bearing. Lu Li closed his eyes. He knew he could only count on himself now. Of course, Yi Luo would support him secretly. He could borrow some Xian crystals from Yi Luo. Whoosh! Just as Lu Li thought of this, he heard a noise coming from behind him. An interspatial ring flew in from the cabin, and Lu Li grabbed it in his hand. Prajna took a look with curiosity and then murmured, "So many Xian crystals. There must be at least 1 billion purple Xian crystals. Brother, who gave this to you?" Lu Li used psychic power to check. He was refreshed. He looked at Yi Luo gratefully. But Yi Luo had activated the shield, so Lu Li could not see him clearly. It was just some friendship in the small battlefield, and Yi Luo had sent over 1 billion purple Xian crystals. This was a great favor. Evil Punisher's voice came from outside. The Bai family is offering 1 billion and 10 million to save the family patriarch. Anyone else? 1 billion and 10 million going once, 1 billion and 10 million going twice. Nobody made any more bids. After all, the price was too high. It was not worth it. What was more, to compete for the family patriarch would be criticized. The Bai family was here to save lives. Competing for the family patriarch would be driving him to death. Lu Li looked at Gumin and said gently, "Go and make an offer of 1 billion and 100 million. Gumin didn't have any hesitation about Lu Li's order. He lifted the gauze, raised his hand, and said, 1 billion and 100 million purple Xian crystals. Swish, swish, swish. Many people looked over. The place that had quieted down was stirred up again. They thought the Bai family had won the Bodhi fruit. Who would have guessed that there would be another uproar? Inside a lotus seat, Ji Mengtian sneered. Dai Feiyu, on the other hand, was stunned. The Gu family has made a move. Is Gu Fenglu really Lu Li? What kind of skill is that? How can he turn into another person? Lu Li is Lu Li? Dai Feiyu was ashamed and angry at the thought of being flirted with at the banquet the day before. There was also fear in her eyes. Lu Li had become Ji Mengtian's devil, and so was Dai Feiyu. She was scared to even hear the name, let alone see Lu Li. There were more than 10,000 people sitting at the south side. They were all discussing and asking questions. After all, the Gu family was a small family. If it were not for the fact that the Gu family had gained some fame recently, not many would know about the Gu family. Many people checked Gu Min with psychic power. Gu Min felt bitter. After the auction, the Gu family would not be able to stay at the Central Plains any longer. The Bai family human sovereign realm warrior was angry. He could not afford to offend a royal family. How dare a noble Lord Realm warrior from a 5th-rank family challenge him? He had said that he was here to save lives. Was this guy here to pick a fight? Many people checked the private room with psychic power and saw Prajna next to Lu Li. Prajna was clearly dressed as a nun. She must be from the great Buddhist temple. Why was she in Lu Li's private room? Was there some conspiracy or inside story? Chapter 647. The noise lasted for the time, for half an incense stick to burn. There were only 2 fruits left, and there were still 2 hours before nightfall. Evil Punisher was not in a hurry, so he didn't urge the bi-family human sovereign realm warrior to increase the price. Evil Punisher and others had clearly sensed that Prajna was with Lu Li, but they acted as if they didn't see her. Lu Li was confused that nobody from the great Buddhist temple paid attention to Prajna. Theoretically speaking, Prajna should enjoy a high status at the great Buddhist temple. How come nobody cared about her when she was with a stranger? Weren't they afraid that Lu Li would hurt Prajna? The bi-family human sovereign realm warrior stared at Gumin in an overbearing manner, as if he wanted him to give up. Gumin was Lu Ling's slave, and he had to listen to Lu Li's orders. Why would he have any concerns? The bi-family human sovereign realm warrior thought about it and said, "Master Evil Punisher, I don't think this man has 1 billion purple Xian crystals. I want you to send someone to verify it." This was a normal procedure that could be found at auctions. If it had been Yi Luo, no one would have doubted him even if he had called for 5 billion. Yi Luo would have definitely taken out 5 billion in the end. The Gu family was too small. How could a 5th-rank family afford so many Xian crystals? Many people were doubtful that Gu Min was here to make trouble. Evil Punisher glanced at a white-browed monk below the stage. The white-browed monk walked toward Gu Min, and Gu Min led him into the private room. Lu Li put the 2 interspatial rings he had prepared on the table. The white-browed monk took them over with psychic power, walked out, and said, "The offer is valid." What? A clamor came from the south. The Gu family had become completely famous this time. At least, the small Gu family had so many purple Xian crystals that they dared to challenge a 7th-rank family. This was already big news. The bi-family human sovereign realm warrior's eyes flickered. Soon, he made up his mind and said, "I will add another 10 million. This time, it was Lu Li's turn to be doubtful. A 7th-rank family was rich. If the family had been around for thousands of years, they should be able to afford more than 1 billion purple Xian crystals. But the bi-family human sovereign realm warrior already felt it was difficult when he offered 400 to 500 million purple Xian crystals. How could he still make such a high offer? Lu Li didn't ask the great Buddhist temple to check right away. He just threw Gumin a glance. Gumin walked out and made another offer without any hesitation. 2 billion. This time, the bi-family human sovereign realm warrior made another offer without hesitation. Another 10 million. Gumin turned around, and Lu Li nodded. Gumin made another bid. 4 billion. Lu Li had 6 billion on him now. Now that the bi-family was challenging him, he had no other choice but to go all the way. He had to reach 6 billion first. Lu Li never valued Xian crystals, as they were merely worldly possessions. Bai Qiushue's life meant everything to him. Even if he had to exchange all of his wealth, he wouldn't even bat an eyelid. Hence, he would never back down from bidding. He wanted to make the Bai family Ren Huang feel hopeless. He wanted to make the Bai family Ren Huang afraid to continue bidding, or at least not have enough Xian crystals to continue bidding. 5 billion. The Bai clan Ren Huang seemed to be irritated. He stood up and shouted, "I bid 5 billion. Lu Li was scared as well. He nodded again. Gumin didn't feel pressured at all. He shouted 6 billion at once. Lu Li's eyes reddened. He stared at the Bai family human sovereign realm warrior. If the Bai family human sovereign realm warrior continued to bid, Lu Li would have no more Xian crystals to bid. The 1 billion Xian crystals Yi Luo had given him was probably his limit. It was impossible for him to have so many Xian crystals with him. What was more, the Yi family would not allow him to lend to Lu Li limitlessly 2 billion. After the Bai family human sovereign realm warrior made the bid, there was no noise or excitement. Instead, it was dead silent again. Just now, Gu Min and the Bai family human sovereign realm warrior had been bidding crazily. They kept raising the price, which confused many people. Now, the bid of 2 billion startled many. Out of their minds, out of their minds, 2 billion purple Xian crystals. Good heavens, I could buy a quasi-relic with some more. This is worth it. After today, the Bai family and the Gu family will be famous all over the Great Land. After a moment of silence, the entire place was in chaos. One Bodhi fruit was estimated to be worth only 600 or 700 million purple Xian crystals. Now, the Bai family was offering 3 times that amount. How crazy was that? Luli had stood up nervously. Now, he slumped back in his chair, frustrated. He had no more Xian crystals. Even if Luo lent him another billion, it wouldn't be enough. He had traveled a long way to the Central Plains, full of hope. He had been living in anxiety day and night, but he had failed miserably. Only one Bodhi fruit would be produced every few years. Luli could imagine how painful it was for him to have it taken away right in front of his eyes. Wait, a glint of coldness rose in the eyes of the patriarch of the Gu family. He walked out, pointed to the Bai family human sovereign realm warrior, and said, "We suspect that he doesn't have that many Xian crystals. Please ask the master of the great Buddhist temple to go and check." Right? Li's eyes glowed. A 7th-rank family could afford 2 billion purple Xian crystals? Li stood up and walked out, looking at Evil Punisher and the white-eyebrowed monk. Now that someone had doubts, Li must go and check. Evil Punisher threw the white-eyebrowed monk a look. The white-eyebrowed monk kicked on the ground and flew to the lotus seat. The Bai family human sovereign realm warrior was embarrassed. The white-eyebrowed monk put his palms together and said, "Almsgiver Bai, I am sorry. Please take out your Xian crystals and let me check so that I can make sure that the offer is valid." Okay. Li's eyes glowed when he saw the embarrassment on the Bai family human sovereign realm warrior's face. The Bai family human sovereign realm warrior made a bid in anger. It was possible that he didn't have that many Xian crystals on him. As long as the Bai family human sovereign realm warrior didn't have that many Xian crystals, then the offer would be the highest. Almsgiver Bai, please cooperate. Seeing that the Bai family human sovereign realm warrior didn't take out the interspatial ring with Xian crystals, the white-eyebrowed monk emphasized again. Many people at the south stood up, making a lot of noise. If the Bai family human sovereign realm warrior couldn't afford the Xian crystals, then it would be a big joke. The Bai family human sovereign realm warrior made up his mind. He took out an interspatial ring with Xian crystals, made up his mind, and said, "There are 5 billion purple Xian crystals in here. The other 500 million, Soon, there came a lot of noise. The Bai family human sovereign realm warrior really didn't have that many Xian crystals. How could he make such a high offer without Xian crystals? Wouldn't the people from the great Buddha temple kill him with a single slap if that was the case? The rest, at that moment, a cold voice came out from a shield, shocking everyone. "We will pay for the rest of the 500 million for him." Countless gazes swept over and were stunned because the person who spoke was a member of 7th-rank clan, and a very famous 7th-rank clan at that. The family was called the Yin family. Once an 8th-rank family, it had declined and was affiliated to the Hades Society. The Yin family had been keeping a low profile. They didn't even say anything today. Also, the Yin family's territory was at the northeast of the Central Plains, while the Bai family was at the southeast. How could they be related? A force under the Hades Society? It is Yang Xian. Li heard the explanation from the patriarch of the Gu family. He was filled with killing intent. He would be an idiot if he still didn't understand. This was a conspiracy against him. His identity had been seen through, and the Bai family was just a pawn. It was even possible that the billions of Xian crystals in the hands of the Bai family human sovereign realm warrior were pulled together by Ji Mengtian, Yang Xian, and Lu Xuan. Their purpose was to stop Li from getting the Bodhi fruit. Revenge. Ji Mengtian, Yang Xian, and Lu Xuan wanted to get back at him, but they couldn't do it directly. Therefore, they sent the Bai family. Maybe. Chapter 648. Very good. Li grinned from extreme anger. The white-eyebrowed monk checked the interspatial ring on the Bai family human sovereign realm warrior's hand and nodded to Evil Punisher. Evil Punisher said, Almsgiver by has won 5 billion purple Xian crystals. Since Almsgiver Yin has offered 500 million, then the offer is valid. Luli showed no emotion. Gu Min and the patriarch of the Gu family looked at him, not knowing what to do. Prajna came out as well and stood behind Luli. Luli thought for a while. His body and face glowed in white light. His bones moved and his facial features changed. He changed back to his original appearance. He even took off his armor, revealing a cyan robe underneath. Many people were already staring at them. Lu Li's sudden transformation caused a commotion. Many people stared at Lu Li and suddenly shouted, isn't that, Lu Li?" Someone shouted Lu Li's name. Many families had collected information and portraits of Lu Li. After all, he was under the protection of the Grandmaster. He was the only one that could live well after offending the four forces. Lu Li. Many people shouted. Thousands stood up. Many young masters and young ladies that went to Yi Rong's banquet shouted in surprise. They didn't know that Gu Feng Lu was Lu Li. No wonder. Someone understood. No wonder the young master of the Gu family had the guts to flirt with them. He even blasphemed Ji Mengtian and Dai Feiyu. Gu Feng Lu was Lu Li. Was there anything in the world that Lu Li didn't dare to do? He was the only one at the Great Land who dared to kill people in public at the demon-slaying hall and humiliate the four forces. Lu Li was ready to risk everything. Now that he had been recognized and set up by Ji Mengtian, there was no point in hiding anymore. What was more, if he revealed his identity, his safety would be guaranteed. He wouldn't have to worry too much. Which family of the Central Plains dared to offend him? Lu Li? The patriarch of the Gu family didn't know who Lu Li was yet. He only knew that the Gu family patriarch had told him to follow Lu Li's lead. The patriarch of the Gu family was upset after learning who Lu Li was. How could the Gu family stay at the Central Plains if they were in cahoots with Lu Li? Big brother, you look much better than before. Prajna pulled Lu Li's sleeve and smiled sweetly. Lu Li patted Prajna's shoulder. He turned to Evil Punisher and said, Master Evil Punisher, can I borrow Xian crystals to bid? Evil Punisher put his palms together and bowed very politely. Benefactor Lu, naturally, as long as we can settle on the spot. The great Buddhist temple doesn't care where the mystic crystals come from. The shield on Yi Luo's lotus seat disappeared. Yi Luo forced a smile and said to Lu Li, I only have 200 million purple Xian crystals left. If you want them, you can have them all. The whole place was silent. No one dared to say anything. Lu Li revealing his true self was a great provocation to the four forces. Who dared to say anything at this moment? Many people admired Yi Luo for wanting to lend Xian crystals to Lu Li. Helping Lu Li in public would be a slap to the faces of the four forces. Thank you, young Master Yi. I don't need to trouble you. Lu Li cupped his fists to Yi Luo and nodded to Yi Yu. Then, he looked at Yang Xian's lotus seat and said, Today I want to borrow hundreds of millions of Xian crystals from young Master Yang Xian. Will young Master Yang do me this favor? Many people were confused. They looked at each other, speechless. Weren't Lu Li and Yang Xian sworn enemies? How could he borrow Xian crystals from Yang Xian? Was Lu Li out his mind? Many people looked at the lotus seat of the Hades Society. Yang Xian didn't say anything as if Lu Li was talking nonsense. The shield on the lotus seat was still there. Young Master Yang, you're not giving me face. Lu Li smiled lightly and said, Since you are not giving me face, then I won't do it for Yang Yu either. Buzzing, as soon as Lu Li finished his words, the shield on Yang Xian's lotus seat disappeared. Yang Xian looked at Lu Li with a vicious look and said, Lu Li, I only have 300 million purple Xian crystals. If you think it is too little, then there is nothing I can do. Many people were confused. Lu Li had said something so strange. How could Yang Xian agree to lend Xian crystals to Lu Li? But the upper limit is only 300 million? Yi Luo, on the other hand, understood. Not only him, but the children of the 12 royal families also understood. The war was still going on in Serenity State. How could the 12 royal families not know what Ji Mingyao and Yang Yu were doing there? Lu Li was exchanging Yang Yu's life with the Yang family for Xian crystals. But Yang Xian was a ruthless man. He was only willing to exchange 300 million purple Xian crystals for Yang Yu's life. Yang Yu was just the grandson of a patriarch of the Yang family. He was not talented, and he was a coward. It was understandable that the Yang family didn't like him. Lu Li thought it was good enough that the Yang family could offer 300 million purple Xian crystals. Bring me the mystic crystals. After some thoughts, Lu Li crooked his finger at Yang Xian. Yang Xian waved his hand, and a Ren Huang behind him took out a space ring and tossed it over. Lu Li took over the ring and glanced at it. Then his hand glowed as a small tripod appeared. He said to Little White inside, "Invite young Master Yang out." Buzzing, the ding of barbarian god flew up, and the lid was opened. A man fell out and rolled around in front of Lu Li. Yang Yu fainted from hunger. His robe was burnt and his hair was disheveled. He looked like a ghost. He was still in a coma. Whoosh, the human sovereign realm warrior behind Yang Xian grabbed Yang Yu with one hand and dashed down to the foot of Mount Buddha like an arrow. Many people didn't even see that the human sovereign realm warrior had disappeared. Yang Xian didn't say anything else. He activated the inhibition formation on the lotus seat and enveloped himself in the shield. Many people were holding their breaths. The atmosphere was suffocating. Even though they didn't understand many things, they could tell that Lu Li was not going to pay back the 300 million purple Xian crystals that Yang Xian borrowed. Whoosh, the ding of barbarian god shrank rapidly. Lu Li grabbed it and put it into his interspatial ring. Then he murmured to himself, "I have one. 6 billion purple Xian crystals. Young Master Yang lent me 300 million, so I have one. 9 billion now. I still need some more." Lu Li glanced over to the lotus seats, and then to Ji Mingtian's. He smiled and said, "Lady Mingtian, we have been through life and death together in the small battlefield. I wonder, how many Xian crystals are you willing to lend me?" The shield on Ji Mingtian's lotus seat disappeared, revealing her stunning face. Dai Feiyu hid behind Ji Mingtian, afraid to look into Lu Li's eyes. Most people were looking at Ji Mingtian. She closed her eyes as if she was in a trance. After the time for more than a dozen breaths, she said, "Young Master Lu, you saw it. I bid for the fairy mushroom with 1 billion Xian crystals. I don't have many Xian crystals left. I only have 110 million. If you want it, I can give it to you." "Ha ha ha ha." Lu Li laughed. Ji Mingtian was very particular when she said the number was 110 million. With the 110 million, Lu Li had a little more than 2 billion, just enough for him to make an offer. On the surface, the bi-family human sovereign realm had made an offer of 2 billion purple Xian crystals, and the other hundreds of millions were borrowed by the Yen family. If Lu Li made another offer, then there would be no doubt about the Bodhi fruit. After all, Lu Li was like a mad dog. Who dared to challenge him in public? That being said, now that they had fallen out, Lu Li would not be so nice. He sneered and said, "Lady Ji, you are so stingy. I think I can borrow one. 5 billion Xian crystals from your sister. If you don't lend me one, 5 billion, then I will have to borrow from Lady Mengyao herself." Chapter 649. Lu Li had calculated the asking price of 5 billion. He borrowed 1 billion from Yi Luo and 2 billion from the auction. Therefore, he needed more than 3 billion in total. Now that they had fallen out, why not extort more? Yang Yu was the son of a patriarch of the Yang family. He was a coward, so Yang Xian and the Yang family didn't value him. How could the Ji family not value Ji Mengyao? Even if they didn't, how could the Ji family not value their reputation? Ji Mengyao was a girl. When he took out the ding of barbarian god, many people checked with psychic power. They could see clearly that Ji Mengyao was lying in there naked. If Lu Li were to throw Ji Mengyao out and everyone could see her naked, then the Ji family would be humiliated. Ji Mingtian would not be able to hold her head up high because of this. After all, she was her sister. Of course, whether or not the Ji family would pay 5 billion for Ji Mengyao would depend on the Ji family's resolution. 5 billion purple Xian crystals was not a small number. In terms of rare mystical materials, it could be piled up into a mountain. Ji Mengtian's expressions were clouded. She stared at Lu Li coldly. She wished she could skin Lu Li alive. Many people held their breaths. Lu Li dared to pull a tooth out of the tiger's mouth, which had frightened them. The Samsara Palace was the most powerful force at the Central Plains. Many people didn't even have the courage to offend the servants of the Samsara Palace, let alone extorting them in public. Lu Li's courage was unbelievable. That was what many people were thinking. They were scared and excited at the same time. Maybe it was because Lu Li had done something they didn't dare to do. Or maybe it was because Lu Li could embarrass a goddess who wouldn't even look at them. Somehow, they felt happy. Lu Li remained calm, even though many powerful psychic powers had locked onto him. And those psychic powers were filled with pressure and strong killing intent. But Lu Li didn't mind. This was not a big deal. Back at the demon-slaying hall, it was much bigger. Back then, there were so many Earth and Mortal Realm warriors. Ji Mengtian said nothing. She seemed to be communicating with the Samsara Palace. On a lotus seat next to Ji Mengtian, a warrior at the middle stage of the human sovereign realm couldn't stand it anymore. He said, Lu Li, it is better to leave some leeway. You can survive a disaster caused by God, but you are courting your own doom. Someone jumped out. Lu Li threw the middle-aged warrior a casual look, but paid him no mind. He turned around and asked Gu Min, "Who is this idiot?" Lu Li's voice was not loud, but many people heard him. Gu Min narrowed his eyes. Lu Li was practically pointing at the human sovereign realm warrior's nose and calling him an idiot before Gu Min could reply. The human sovereign realm warrior's killing intent spread out. A surge of qi and energy enveloped Lu Li like that of a wild beast. Even the wind stopped blowing at this moment. It was not as if Lu Li had never been enveloped by the horrifying qi and energy of powerful warriors. Not even Earth and Mortal Realm warriors could defeat him, let alone human sovereign realm warriors. He looked around coldly. Seeing that the people of the great Buddhist temple had no intention of speaking, he looked at the Ren Huang and said, "Don't use your aura to scare me. I am not easily intimidated. Your level is not high enough. If you're not convinced, you could try attacking me." "How dare you?" Ren Huang was completely enraged. The violent, murderous aura on his body poured down like a black cloud. The dark force on his body shone brightly. It seemed like he was about to make a move. "Mr. Chun," the great Buddhist temple didn't have to say anything, but they had to step out now. Evil Slayer glanced at the middle-aged Ren Huang and called out. However, he didn't say anything else. "Family Patriarch Chun." Ji Mengtian finally spoke. She threw the middle-aged human sovereign realm warrior a casual look. The latter quieted down at once. Clearly, this was a family patriarch of an affiliated force of the Samsara Palace. He had stepped out to protect the reputation of the Samsara Palace. Ji Mengtian turned to Lu Li. This time, she was not as cold as before. She said gently, "Lu Li, you are asking for too much. I don't have that many Xian crystals." Lu Li didn't care. He said indifferently, "Can't you think of a way? The Samsara Palace can easily get billions of Xian crystals." Lu Li's meaning was clear. He wanted Ji Mengtian to borrow Xian crystals. No matter what, he wanted one. 5 billion today. If she didn't give him the Xian crystals, she would have to face the consequences. Ji Mengtian bit her red lips. She was so pitiful. She looked at Lu Li timidly and said, "That's too much. Let's cut it down." If it were any other man, he might have been charmed by Ji Mengtian's lovely looks and softened his heart. Lu Li knew very well that inside this beautiful skin hid an extremely vicious heart. He said with determination, "Of course. You should know the reason. Don't waste time. My patience is limited." It was unheard of for a borrower to be so arrogant and overbearing. Ji Mengtian sighed. She flew over to a temple and said, "Come with me." Compromise? Many people found it hard to accept. How could the most powerful force of the Central Plains give in to a young man so easily? And in front of most families of the Central Plains? Was the Samsara Palace still the overbearing and powerful Samsara Palace? Lu Li was not surprised. He looked at Evil Punisher and nodded. Luli flew to the temple with Jimeng Tian by himself. Luli was not afraid that Jimeng Tian would do anything to him. Who would dare to kill him in public? Prajna wanted to go with Luli, but she didn't after she saw Evil Punisher. They went into a temple where a human sovereign realm warrior was waiting for them. He gave Jimeng Tian an interspatial ring, threw Luli a glare, and left. Jimeng Tian activated the inhibition formation of a hall in the temple before she threw the ring to Luli and said, "There are 1.5 billion purple Xian crystals here. Let my sister go." Buzzing, Luli took out the ding of barbarian god and threw Jimeng Yao out. The wounds on Jimeng Yao's skin had healed a bit, but she was still dirty like a beggar. She was naked. Luli looked at her and grinned. Jimeng Tian took out a robe and wrapped Jimeng Yao up. Jimeng Yao woke up at this moment. She thought she was dreaming when she saw Jimeng Tian. She blinked and said with her cracked lips, "Meng Tian, is it really you?" Seeing how miserable Jimeng Yao was, Jimeng Tian turned to Luli coldly and said with hatred, "Luli, the Ji family will remember this, and we will pay you back 10 times over." "Luli?" Jimeng Yao looked at Luli. A glint of fear rose in her eyes. She trembled and said hysterically, "Devil, Luli, you are a devil. I will not let you go." "Ha ha ha." Luli laughed. He looked at Jimeng Tian and said, "Jimeng Tian, think about it. Have I ever offended the Ji family? If it weren't for the fact that you have been trying to kill me time and time again, would I be like this? You can do whatever you want and you can't let others get back at you? What is this? You can get back at me in the future, but if you fall into my hands again, I promise you that I will make you suffer 10 times more." With that said, Luli turned around, opened the inhibition formation, and walked out. He didn't look at the twins again. Perhaps in the eyes of outsiders, it was too cruel for him to deal with the two beauties like flowers and jade. But Luli himself didn't mind at all. As far as he was concerned, the twins were vicious enemies bent on killing him. Chapter 650. Whoosh! After Luli came out from the temple, Jimeng Tian flew down Mount Buddha with Jimeng Yao. They dashed into the teleportation formation and left the city of Buddha directly. The Samsara Palace was scared. Seeing that Luli was flying over, many people stared at his handsome face with mixed feelings. After today, this young man would once again be famous across the great land. This young man came from the small northern desert, and yet he could create such a stir at the central plains where powerful warriors were everywhere. His rise was like a comet. People had to marvel at his abilities and means. That being said, the Grand Master of the Demon-Slaying Hall only promised to protect him for 10 years. 1.5 years had passed, and Luli was still at the peak of the Eternal Realm. When the 10 years were up, would Luli be able to stand against the joint efforts of the four forces? Nobody could be optimistic. Throughout history, there were many monstrous youths who rose like comets, but those who could ultimately stand at the top of the world were few and far between. Too much might break. This was not an empty statement. The Samsara Palace, Hades Society, Pavilion of Blossoms, and the Lu family could stand at the Central Plains for so many years. How powerful were the foundations of these four forces? Not even the other royal families, let alone Luli, could compete with them. As for the fact that Luli was born in the Lu family, many people ignored it. Lu Zhangtan was in charge of the Lu family, and Luli had been exiled. The conflict between Lu Li and Lu Xuan, Lu Ni, and Lu Zhangtan could not be resolved. Therefore, Luli could not have anything to do with the Lu family anymore. "I bid 1 billion. Luli ignored the looks. He walked back to the private room, looked at Evil Punisher, and said, "Do you want to send someone to see if I have enough Xian crystals?" Evil Punisher forced a smile. He glanced over and asked, "Is there anyone else?" Silence reigned. The Bai family human sovereign realm warrior said no more. He was just a chess piece. Now that his master was scared, what else could he say? After a while, Evil Punisher nodded and said, "Okay, no more bids. The Bodhi fruit is yours, almsgiver Lu." As soon as Evil Punisher finished his words, the atmosphere was relaxed. Nobody could guarantee that Luli wouldn't do something crazy if someone else made another bid. Today, it was over. Luli put on a smile. Today, he had offended the Hades Society and the Samsara Palace, but he thought it was worth it. These two forces were originally like fire and water. So what if their hatred deepened? He returned to the private room with Hanya, Gumin, and the others. They waited quietly for the last item to be sold and the auction to end. After what Luli had done, the last item of the auction, the dragon spit fruit, seemed a little tasteless. The bidding wasn't intense at all. In fact, even after Evil Punisher started bidding, no one called out a bid. Those from the Palace of Immortals' inquiries, the Red Lunar, and the Palace of Heaven's roars all made their bids so that the dragon saliva fruit wouldn't be sold at a low price. The final transaction price was not high, only 6 billion, which was not even comparable to the price of the Bodhi fruit. The auction was over. Luli was about to trade his Xian crystals for the Bodhi fruit. Hanya suddenly pulled the corner of his clothes and said, "Brother Lu, my master said she wants to see you." "Your master?" Luli was surprised. He didn't know Prajna's identity at the great Buddhist temple yet. Who was her master? Why did she want to see him all of a sudden? Seeing that Luli didn't move, Prajna smiled sweetly and said, "Brother Lu, my master doesn't meet outsiders easily. None of the guests here today are qualified to see my master." Luli was moved. Ji Mingtian and the others were not qualified to see Prajna's master. Was Prajna's master the abbot of the great Buddhist temple? The family patriarch of the Kong family. "Lead the way. I will go and see your master." Luli was not afraid that the great Zen temple wouldn't give him the Bodhi fruit now that he had won the bid. He followed Prajna to the huge temple. Luli's departure caught many people's attention. Luli walking to the main hall of the great Buddhist temple raised more suspicions. There were two noble Lord Realm monks guarding outside the main hall. They didn't stop Prajna and Luli. They didn't even say anything, as if Luli and Prajna were invisible. Inside the hall was a huge Buddha statue. The Buddha statue was made of a special material. It looked more like a statue of a person. Prajna bowed to the Buddha statue and led Luli to a corridor on the side. Luli didn't know how many halls they had passed. In the end, he walked out of the huge temple and arrived at a quiet valley. The view of the valley was nice. There were no servants here. There was a bamboo forest in the distance. Behind the bamboo forest was a pond with a cabin in the corner. Prajna skipped forward with Luli. Pointing to the cabin, she said, "Brother Lu, I live here usually. Apart from my master, I am the only one here." Luli patted Prajna's shoulder lovingly. She was at the age where she liked to play. How could she live here with an old man, all by herself? She had no playmates. She had to be accompanied by lanterns and wooden fish every day. That was too cruel for a child. Nobody was in the cabin. Luli didn't dare to use psychic power. He glanced over and saw an old monk sitting by the pond behind the cabin with a fishing rod in his hand. The old monk was old and his back was bent. His white eyebrows were so long that they reached his chin. His eyes were closed as if he didn't know that Luli and Prajna were here. Luli tried to sense the realm of the old monk, but he couldn't. He was surprised. The monk was at least at the earth immortal realm. He must be able to tell that he was at the human sovereign realm. "Master!" Prajna hopped over. She bowed to the old monk with respect and said, "Brother Lu, you are here." Luli walked over, cupped his fists, bowed, and said, "Greetings, master." The old monk opened his eyes. His eyes were cloudy. He turned to Luli, pointed to the flagstone, and said, "Please sit down. Prajna, go and make some tea." Prajna walked away with a smile. The old monk put down the fishing rod. Luli didn't see any bait on the fishing rod. What kind of fish was the old monk fishing? The old monk had many wrinkles on his face. He looked at Prajna in the distance and said, "Prajna is a good girl. I don't have much time left. I don't think I can take care of her anymore." Luli looked at the old monk with a frown. What did he mean? But Luli still bowed and said, "Master, you are powerful. You can live for another 1,000 years. Ha! The old monk moved his lips and said with a smile, "I've lived for more than 3,000 years. How can I not know the day of my death?" I am old and I like to nag. Please don't laugh at me." The old monk twitched his long white eyebrows and continued, "Let's not talk about this. I am here to talk to you about something serious. It is about the Cyan Phoenix race and the Mammoth race." Eh? Lu Li's soul trembled. Years ago, the six forces besieged the Cyan Phoenix race and the Mammoth race. Lu Li even promised that he would bring the two races back to the Central Plains and take back their ancestral lands. Now, the old monk wanted to talk to him about the two races. In other words, the old monk knew that the surviving forces of the two races had followed Lu Li. Otherwise, why would he talk to Lu Li so rashly? Lu Li thought about it and went straight to the point. Do the 12 royal families all know about the Cyan Phoenix race and the Mammoth race? P.S. Let's warm up again. At midnight on the 31st, some recommendations. Chapter 651. The old monk said frankly, "The northern desert is a small place. We can find out many things if we want to. We know something about the deserted world. Of course, the deserted world is sealed off by you, so we will not force our way in. We don't care too much about the two races. After all, if we make a scene at the northern desert and infuriate Xingmu, nobody will have a good life." Lu Li was relieved to hear this. The scouts of the 12 royal families didn't go to the deserted world, so they didn't know about the inferno. It was good that the inferno was not exposed. Otherwise, the 12 royal families would rather offend the Grand Master of the demon-slaying hall and take the inferno. Xingmu? Lu Li was unfamiliar with the name. The old monk explained, "The Grand Master of the demon-slaying hall." "Oh, I see." Lu Li nodded and asked the old monk, "What do you want to talk about? Can you represent the great Buddhist temple?" "Of course." The old monk nodded. He must have a high status at the great Buddhist temple. That being said, Earth Immortal Realm warriors were at the highest level in the 12 royal families. But why didn't the old monk go to the demon-slaying hall? The old monk looked at the pond and said slowly, "Back then, when we attacked the Cyan Phoenix race and the Mammoth race, there is no right or wrong. You must know something about the human race and the ancient races. Everyone wants this land. If we don't rise up and drive out the ancient races, we will be the ones being killed, robbed, and bullied. So, don't worry about who is right or wrong. At least, the great Buddhist temple didn't kill any civilians of the two races, not a single one. The two races must know this." The old monk would not lie. Lu Li nodded and motioned the old monk to go on. The old monk turned around. His cloudy eyes became clear again. He looked at Lu Li and said, "Today, I want to resolve the grudge between the two races and the great Buddhist temple, because I don't want the great Buddhist temple to be your enemy." "Why?" Lu Li frowned. The old monk thought too highly of him. There were still 8.5 years to go. How could the old monk be so sure that he could survive the attack from the four forces in 10 years? If he could not hold on, then all the forces he and Lu Ling had would be wiped out. How could the old monk be so sure that he could rise up and defeat the great Buddhist temple in 8.5 years? Because of Prajna. A benevolent smile appeared on the old monk's face. He looked at the small wooden house in the distance and said, "Hanya is a godly fetus of heaven and earth. Since she was young, she has never been close to anyone other than me. Yet she is so close to you. I believe in Hanya, so I believe that little benefactor's future achievements will be limitless." "Hanya," Lu Li put on a gentle smile. This girl really was a miraculous birth. But he wondered what kind of miraculous birth she was. Since the old monk had made it clear, Lu Li didn't want to block all paths. It was always good to have another ally. Moreover, the great Buddhist temple had not slaughtered the civilians of the two clans. It was normal for two forces to kill the warriors of the two clans in a battle. Yi Cha and Meng Ji probably would not say anything. While Lu Li was pondering, the old monk said, "Young benefactor, can you make a decision for the two races? If you can make the decision, as long as we can reconcile, you can set the conditions." Lu Li could not make such an offer. Even if the great Buddhist temple didn't, Lu Li would feel it would be good to have one less enemy and one more ally. Without any hesitation, Lu Li said with a smile, I think the two races will listen to me. As for the conditions, what do you think is good? Luli threw the ball to the old monk. He must have a plan. The old monk only paused for a bit before he said, "The great Buddhist temple will never be your enemy, and we can maintain business ties with you for a long time. We can buy all the mystical materials you want to sell at the market price. Whatever you need, the great Buddhist temple will sell to you at 20% off. As long as the great Buddhist temple has it, we will sell it to you." What? Luli was moved. He had thought that the great Buddhist temple would offer some mystical materials to compensate the cyan phoenix race and the mammoth race. He didn't expect that the great Buddhist temple would make such a generous offer. Luli owned the Inferno now, so he could not sell all the mystical materials he had. He had to rely on several Central Plains families to sell in small batches secretly. If the great Buddhist temple was willing to buy, Lu Li and Lu Ling could get a large amount of Xian crystals. On the other hand, the great Buddhist temple was willing to sell mystical materials to Lu Li at a 20% discount. Not only could Lu Li earn a lot of Xian crystals, it could also help the forces under Lu Li and Lu Ling's command soar. Lu Li came back to his senses after a long time. He asked with doubt, "Master, aren't you afraid that you will offend the four forces by doing this?" The Pavilion of Delicacy used to have business ties with Lu Li. But under pressure from the Samsara Palace, the Pavilion of Delicacy had sealed off all teleportation formations. If the news of the deal between the great Buddhist temple and Lu Li was made known, the four forces would be offended. After all, the Pavilion of Delicacy was helping Lu Li openly. "Ha ha!" The old monk smiled. His wrinkled face twitched as he said carelessly, "I can live for another 100 years. As long as I am alive, which of the four forces will dare to invade the Buddha mountain?" It was a light sentence, but it carried a lot of weight, giving people a strong sense of confidence and arrogance. Lu Li looked at the old monk. Out of instinct, he trusted him. How could a man like him say something like this? "Okay." Lu Li stood up, bowed to the old monk, and said, "Thank you, master. The cyan phoenix race, the mammoth race, and the great Buddhist temple are cleared now. I, Lu Li, owe the great Buddhist temple a favor. If you need anything in the future, you can send a message to me at any time." Lu Li knew very well that the old monk was giving him face by making such a good offer. Otherwise, the surviving forces of the mammoth race and the cyan phoenix race would be nothing in the eyes of the great Buddhist temple. Rustle, rustle, rustle. From the distance, Prajna walked over with a cup of tea. She handed it to Lu Li and said with a sweet smile, "Brother Lu, this is the treasure that my master has hidden away. Not many people have the chance to drink it." Lu Li smelled the fragrance from the distance. The fragrance went straight into his nose and was refreshing. He took a sip and seemed to be intoxicated. After a while, he nodded and said, "This is the best tea in the world. Thank you, Master and Prajna." The old monk waved his hand and said, "Prajna, go and get that Bodhi fruit. Also, give me a lamp grass and earth ginseng." Prajna walked away obediently. The old monk looked at Lu Li and asked, "How long has the poison man been frozen?" Lu Li suddenly remembered something. It was said that there was an abbot of the great Buddhist temple who could cure the immortals perish. It was said that the abbot hadn't seen anyone for 300 years. Therefore, Lu Li had given up the idea of asking the abbot to cure the poison. Could that abbot be this old monk? The old monk could tell that Lu Li was confused. He nodded and said, "I have some medical knowledge. I did cure someone of the immortals perish 1,000 years ago." Lu Li was filled with deep veneration. He could put his mind at ease. With the help of this master, Bai Qiu could be saved easily. Lu Li said in a hurry, "My wife has been poisoned for more than 3 years. I was the one who was poisoned. She used the enchantment to transfer the poison to herself. Then we froze her with ice and some secret skills. Before I came, she was fine." Chapter 652. Prajna brought 3 kinds of mystical fruits and grasses. Lu Li put them in and then took out several interspatial rings. He calculated and gave the 2. 1 billion purple Xian crystals to the old monk. The old monk only asked for one interspatial ring, which only contained the 600 million purple Xian crystals Luli brought. He said, "The Bodhi fruit is not worth so many Xian crystals. 600 million is enough. Take the rest. Cultivate hard. You don't have much time left. I am looking forward to your performance when the 10 years are up." Luli owed him 5 billion purple Xian crystals for a few words. He was not a pretentious person. He bowed again and said, "Master, I need to go back to the Cloud's Plains at once. I will not disturb you any longer. We will send someone to deal with the great Zen temple in secret." "Okay." The old monk nodded and said, "Let's build a teleportation formation here and teleport you to the drifting cloud city directly. It will not be inconvenient for you to come to the Central Plains. If you have time, you can come and have tea with me." "Okay, Prajna, send almsgiver Lu off." Prajna looked up at Lu Li and said with sadness, "Brother Lu, are you going back?" "Yes." Lu Li nodded and said, "Prajna, if you want to hang out with me, when the teleportation formation is built, you can come to the drifting cloud city at any time. I will take you there. Pinky promise." Prajna extended her pretty hand and said seriously. Luli made a pinky promise with her with a forced smile. After saying goodbye to the old monk, Prajna showed Luli into the temple. When they walked into the main hall, they saw Evil Punisher waiting for them. "Prajna, let me see almsgiver Lu off." Evil Punisher smiled. Prajna didn't even look at Evil Punisher. She just looked at Luli, waved her hand, and said, "Brother, goodbye. I will find you later." With that said, Prajna walked into the hall step by step. She would look back at Luli every now and then, reluctant to part with him. Luli stood in the hall and waved. After Prajna walked in, he cupped his fist to Evil Punisher and said, "Master Evil Punisher, sorry to bother you." "Almsgiver Lu, you are welcome. Just call me Evil Punisher." Evil Punisher smiled gently and added, "Almsgiver Lu, you are the most distinguished guest of the great Buddhist temple now that our forefather is willing to meet you." The old monk had lived for a few thousand years, and his seniority seemed to be the highest in the great Buddha temple. He followed Evil Punisher out of the mountain. Gu Min and the elder of the Gu family were brought over, and Evil Punisher sent the three of them down the mountain. There were no more outsiders on the mountain. The guests had all been escorted down the mountain. Lu Li, Yu Huaxin, and Yu Huaxin walked down the stairs. Many psychic powers scanned Lu Li at once, but the psychic powers vanished soon. Lu Li bid farewell to Evil Punisher and left for the yard on the carriage. When they got on the carriage, Lu Li said to Gu Min at once, "Send a message to your father at once. Tell him to relocate all the disciples of the Gu family to the Cloud's Plains and the Serenity Plains." Gu Min shook his head and said, "Don't worry, young Masterly. The Saintess has a plan. Actually, on the second day after we left the Gu family, our Gu family's disciples began to move. Furthermore, the old, weak, women, and children were all moved to the Cloud Prefecture a few months ago." "That's great." Since Lu Ling had made the arrangements, Lu Li was relieved. This time, Ji Mingtian and Yang Xian didn't dare to kill him, so they would definitely vent their anger on the Gu clan. If the Gu clan didn't leave the Central Plains, they would soon be annihilated. Lu Li put his mind at ease. He walked to the yard, thinking that he would contact Yi Luo and return the Xian crystals to him. However, when he arrived at the yard, Yi Luo and Yi were already sitting there. Lu Li asked Gu Min to leave and walked in alone. "Brotherly," Yi greeted Lu Li with a smile. She was so witty. Yi Luo looked at Lu Li and asked, "Did you get it?" "Yes, I did." Lu Li took out the interspatial ring with 1 billion purple Xian crystals, threw it to Yi Luo, and said, "The great Buddhist temple only asked for 600 million Xian crystals." "What?" Yi Luo and Yi were surprised. Why was the great Buddhist temple so nice to Lu Li? Lu Li thought about it and decided not to tell them about his alliance with the great Buddhist temple. After all, it would be bad for the great Buddhist temple. Lu Li smiled but said nothing. Yi Luo took over the interspatial ring without asking more questions. Holding Lu Li's arm, Yi Luo said, "Let's go. We didn't get a drink to our heart's content yesterday. Now, let's go and have 300 cups of wine. Sorry, Luli was not in the mood for wine. He said, I am in a hurry to go back and save people. We will have plenty of chances to drink. If you have time, come to the northern desert or the Clouds Plains. I will drink with you for 3 days and 3 nights. Yi Luo put on a regretful expression. He patted Lu Li's shoulder and said, Since you are busy, I will not force you. We don't know when we will see each other again. When the time is up, do you have the confidence? Lu Li did not have the slightest confidence. He forced a smile and said, I will do my best and leave the rest to fate. I think maybe fate doesn't want me to die after so many times. Yes, Yi Luo said with certainty. Good people don't live long, but scourges live for thousands of years. You are a scourge. You will live for thousands of years. Ha ha ha. Lu Li and Yi Luo looked at each other and laughed. Yi was looking at Lu Li with admiration. On the Buddha mountain, Lu Li humiliated and blackmailed Yang Xian and Ji Mengtian in public. Yi admired Lu Li even more. Okay, let's part ways here. We're going back to the City of Universe. If you need anything, you can send a message to me. Be careful. Yi Luo cupped his fists and walked out freely. Yi threw Lu Li a few glances, waved her hand, and left with him with a sweet smile. Watching them leave, Lu Li felt warm inside. He and Yi Luo were only friends at the small battlefield. Yi Luo built a good relationship with Lu Li at the expense of offending the four forces. He trusted Lu Li and lent him 1 billion purple Xian crystals. Yi Luo was not worried that Lu Li could not pay it back or that he would be killed in the future. Yi Luo and Lu Li took the chariot to the teleportation formation directly. Lu Li stood there for a while and then waved to Gu Min and said, Have you packed up? Let's teleport to the Clouds Plains. Gu Min nodded and said, There is nothing to pack. We can leave at any time. The patriarchs of the Gu family were still uneasy. But what could they do when their family patriarch and disciples were going to the Clouds Plains? They had to go to the end of the road. Lu Li asked after some thoughts, Are we leaving from the Locust Island again? Is there any shortcut? Yes. Gu Min took out a map, pointed to a city, and said, This is the City of Waters. From here, we can teleport to the Island of Tranquility. From there, we can teleport to the Clouds Plains. This will be faster. It will take us 10 days at most. Lu Li took a look at the map. The Island of Tranquility was in the sea between the Central Plains and the Clouds Plains. He asked with a frown, Is the Island of Tranquility safe? I think so. Gu Min thought about it and said, This island belongs to a 7th-rank family under the Great Buddhist Temple. We used to teleport from the Clouds Plains to the Central Plains. This family is absolutely loyal to the Great Buddhist Temple. Some patriarchs of the Great Buddhist Temple are from this family. Then it is okay. Lu Li was relieved. The Great Buddhist Temple had formed an alliance with him and would not harm him. What was more, the Grand Master of the Demon-Slaying Hall, Xing Mu, would come after them. Let's go. Chapter 653. The teleportation from a million Buddha City to the Myriad Water City in the west was a little far. Normally, it would take 7 to 8 days to get there. Lu Li was burning with anxiety, so he didn't spend the night in any city. When he was tired from teleporting, he would find a tavern to eat and rest for a couple of hours before he resumed his journey. It only took him 6 days to arrive at the City of Waters. The journey here was relatively short. After 2 more teleportations, he would be able to set foot in the Cloud Province. At that time, he would be able to teleport back to the Drifting Cloud City in a single day. Are you all still holding up? Lu Li looked at the 7 people around him. They nodded despite their tiredness. Lu Li waved his hand and said, Go on with the teleportation. We will get back to the Clouds Plains today. Lu Li came out from the Gu family with 5 patriarchs. Including Gu Min, there were 6 of them. The last one was Hu Lang. However, Hu Lang had used the bone shrinking technique to change his appearance and restrain his aura. Ordinary people would not be able to detect that he was a Ren Huang. Only a powerful Ren Huang would be able to sense it. Lu Li and the others had only teleported 4 times before Hu Lang found them. Hu Lang had been watching them secretly. Since Lu Li had been exposed, there was no need for Hu Lang to hide anymore. Therefore, he followed Lu Li to protect him. Fortunately, nothing unexpected happened during the teleportation for a few days. Presumably, the Samsara Palace, the 100 Flowers Pavilion, the Hades Society, and the Lu family did not dare to make a move. Once again, Lu Li's name was known at the Central Plains. Soon, the news would reach the demon-slaying hall. If Lu Li died at the Central Plains, the Grand Master of the demon-slaying hall would not let the matter rest. By that time, the old guys at the demon-slaying hall would conduct a secret investigation. The culprit behind all this would not end well. By the time they arrived at the City of Waters, Lu Li was exhausted, but he insisted on teleporting. For one thing, he was burning with impatience to get back to the deserted world as soon as possible. For another, this was the Central Plains, someone else's territory. It was not safe to stay here. After handing over some Xian crystals, the teleportation formation was activated. Lu Li and the others disappeared from the City of Waters. This time, the teleportation took a long time. After all, it was a long journey across a large sea region. After half a day, Lu Li and the others finally appeared in a small city. Hu Lang immediately used his spiritual will to check if the city was safe. Hu Lang frowned slightly, and his expression did not look too good. He extended his spiritual force to the limit and carefully scanned the island. What happened? Lu Li noticed something was wrong. The city seemed to be under attack. Hundreds of castles had collapsed, and some of the teleportation formations in the plaza had been destroyed. The city was in a mess. Out of instinct, Lu Li and the others were on guard. This city belonged to a force affiliated with the great Buddhist temple. Who would dare to make trouble here? Lu Li's first thought was that this was a trap. After some investigation, Lu Li and the others didn't think it was a conspiracy. There were many corpses and injured people in the city, and they all had traces of being struck by lightning. It was still raining heavily in the city. Could it be that the city had been struck by lightning? Hu Lang turned to a noble Lord Realm Warrior next to him and asked what happened in the city. That team leader did not know Lu Li and the others. But when Hu Lang revealed his human sovereign realm chi and energy, the team leader said with respect, "The Cloud Sea is in a riot. We have encountered a thunderstorm that happens once in a decade. This place is not so bad. Many tribes nearby have suffered heavy casualties." Thunderstorm? Hu Lang calmed down. Seeing that Lu Li was confused, Hu Lang explained in a low voice, "The Cloud Sea is not stable. There are often thunderstorms. Arcs of lightning are everywhere. If the center of the thunderstorm is near an island, the island will suffer. There used to be a big island. After the thunderstorm, none of the 1 million people on the island survived." So cruel. Lu Li looked into the sky. His heart skipped a beat. But on the inside, he was relieved. It didn't matter as long as it was not a conspiracy. It would only take a few days for the teleportation formation to be repaired. It wouldn't matter if it was delayed for a few days. Boom, boom, boom. From the northwest came some roars of thunder. Lu Li and the others looked toward the northwest wind. They saw bolts of lightning tearing through the sky like silver dragons, ferocious and horrifying. It seemed that the thunderstorm was not over yet. It had just moved to the west. Lu Li turned to Hu Lang, who asked the team leader how long it would take for the teleportation formation to be repaired. The team leader thought about it and said at least 5 days. During this time, people in the city were busy healing the wounded and saving the dying. The teleportation formation to the Clouds Plains was damaged, so they couldn't leave for now. Flying back would take more time, at least half a month. Lu Li and the others went to a tavern. They were exhausted, and it was a good chance for them to take a rest. There were some taverns that were not struck by thunderbolts. Lu Li rented a yard. As soon as he went in, Lu Li fell asleep and left everything to Hu Lang. Hu Lang was at the human sovereign realm, and his soul was strong. He was tired, but he could not afford to be careless. He sat next to Lu Li and used psychic power to check the city to make sure that there was no conspiracy. The city belonged to a family affiliated with the great Buddhist temple. There weren't many powerful warriors here. The island owner of the Island of Tranquility was only at the peak of the noble lord realm. He didn't see any human sovereign realm warriors. Hulang was relieved after a while. Go and have a look. After the patriarchs of the Gu family rested for half a day and recovered, Hulang sent out 5 patriarchs to check around the island and to see if it was really a thunderstorm. The 5 patriarchs snuck out. An hour later, the island owner of the Island of Tranquility came in person to visit Luli. Clearly, he had been informed of the relationship between the great Buddhist temple and Luli. Luli was still sleeping, and a warrior at the peak of the noble lord realm wasn't worth meeting. Hulang went out to meet the island owner, chatted with him for a bit, and then left. Several hours later, the 5 patriarchs came back one after another. Everything they found was correct. The Island of Tranquility was indeed hit by a thunderstorm. In addition to the Island of Tranquility, the nearby islands suffered heavy casualties as well. The thunderstorm caused at least hundreds of thousands of casualties. Luli woke up after a day's sleep. He was relieved to hear Hulang's report. As long as it wasn't a conspiracy, nothing else mattered. The teleportation formation had begun to be repaired. The island owner of the Island of Tranquility attached great importance to it. It should be ready in 3 or 4 days at most. Boom, boom, boom. Thunder was still roaring in the west. The thunderstorm hadn't died down yet. Luli ate something. He felt bored sitting in the castle. He was worried about Bai Qiuxue, so he couldn't calm down and cultivate. Let's go to the thunderstorm area and have a look. Luli remembered when he was in the sea area to the east of the Central Plains, the scene of thunderstorms and tornadoes raging. Because of that, Luli was inspired. Eventually, he learned the speed profound meaning. The thunderstorm in the west was horrifying. Maybe he could learn something by going there. Thunderstorms are dangerous. Hulang had seen thunderstorms before, so he was hesitating. Luli rolled his eyes and said, "Let's just stay on the periphery and not go into the center of the thunderstorm. I am not tired of living." All right. Chapter 654. Dark clouds loomed over the city. The wind was howling and the rain was pouring down. The cold rain fell on the sea, stirring up some mist. Whoosh! 2 golden chariots whooshed across the sky. Lu Li and Hulang were on one, and Gu Min and the 5 patriarchs of the Gu family were on the other. They flew toward the west. Boom, boom, boom. Even though it was daytime, the sky in the west was as dark as night. Within the black clouds, furious dragons were roaring and scuttling. Small arcs of lightning were dancing in the sky like ferocious centipedes. Although they hadn't gotten close, an extremely stifling aura had already spread over, causing the elders of the Gu clan to not dare to move forward. Spread out and have a look around. Hulang waved his hand. The Gu family warriors didn't want to get close to the thunderstorm. As soon as Hulang said so, they put away their chariots and flew to different directions to have a look. Lu Li and Hulang moved forward. The rain was getting heavier. The gale slowed down the chariots. The chariots had a shield, so Lu Li and Hulang wouldn't be drenched. Right here, Hulang saw how horrifying the thunderstorm was. Countless thunderbolts were shooting down from the sky into the sea. It was as if the thunderbolts were connected to the sea. If they went into the thunderstorm, they would be blasted into nothingness. A bit closer. They were more than 20 miles away from the edge of the thunderstorm. Hulang couldn't feel the power of the thunderbolts clearly. Hulang was afraid that something might happen to Lu Li, so he was being more cautious. Lu Li, on the other hand, knew that he was still in a safe area. Hulang had to keep moving forward. After another 14 miles, Hulang didn't want to go any further. Lu Li didn't force him. The electric arcs were everywhere. If he went any closer, he would be in trouble. The thunderbolts were so fast that he wouldn't even be able to run away. Squeak, squeak, a small beast crawled out from Lu Li's sleeve. Its eyes were still in a daze. Clearly, it was woken up by the roar of thunder. Lu Li patted Little White's head lovingly. Little White didn't pay attention to Lu Li. It stared at the thunderstorm, its eyes glistening. Whoosh! All of a sudden, Little White dashed toward the thunderstorm in a blur. Lu Li and Hulang were taken aback. Lu Li wanted to yell for Little White to come back, but he thought of something. He shut his mouth, but he was still nervous. Young Masterly. Do you need me to chase her back for you? Hu Lang asked anxiously. Did this little thing take the wrong medicine? He actually dared to rush into the thunderstorm area? No need. Luli waved his hand. Little White had been refined by thunderbolts in the ding of barbarian god for more than half a year. Its physical body should be strong. Since it dared to go into the thunderstorm area, it must be confident. Boom! Whitey's body had just rushed into the thunderstorm area when it was instantly struck by a lightning bolt as thick as a head. Its small body was struck into the sea. Luli's pupils contracted. He used psychic power to check at once. Hu Lang had already scanned the area with his spiritual will, and a look of shock appeared on his face. Under the sea, a white figure quickly flew up and charged proudly towards a huge bolt of lightning. That pair of small eyes sparkled, as if that wasn't a terrifying bolt of lightning, but the most delicious food. This little thing is too abnormal. Seeing Whitey being blasted down time and time again, only to fly back up again and again, Hu Lang was a little speechless. In the inferno, Little White could survive a strike from the Fire Leopard King. Hu Lang and the others already had a whole new level of respect for Little White. Now, they were even more astonished. After a while, Hu Lang asked Luli, "Young Master Li, is this little beast a beast king? In terms of defense, it should be close to that of a beast king." Luli gave an ambiguous answer. He didn't know much about Little White himself. All he knew was that Little White must have mutated after being modified by divine energy. As for how far Little White could go in the future, nobody could predict that. Luli and Hu Lang stood in silence outside the thunderstorm, watching Little White being struck down again and coming back up again and again. Gu Min and the patriarchs of the Gu family didn't come back. Clearly, the area was safe and there were no powerful warriors lurking around. There were no powerful warriors nearby. Who would be bored enough to come and watch such a horrifying thunderstorm? They would want to hide. Luli looked at Little White for a while and decided to leave it alone. Thunderbolts could not kill Little White, and it could do whatever it wanted. Luli calmed himself down and observed the thunderbolts in the sky, trying to perceive something. Profound meanings were the embodiment of the laws of heaven and earth. Thunderbolts were one of the laws of heaven and earth, one of the most miraculous and powerful forces of nature. If one could find something in it, one could learn a profound meaning. Who would complain about having too many profound meanings? The thunderstorm covered a wide area with a radius of hundreds of miles. Dozens of miles ahead of them was filled with thunderbolts. The roar of thunder was deafening. Inside the thunderbolts, there was a horrifying energy. Needless to say, the horrifying energy contained in the thunderbolts could tear apart many weak creatures. Seeing that Lu Li was staring at the thunderstorm, Hu Lang didn't disturb him. He went to check around. He noticed patriarchs of the Gu family and Gu Min were patrolling around. Hu Lang went back to the chariot, feeling relieved. He stood next to Lu Li and gazed at the sea of thunderbolts in the distance. Naturally, Hu Lang knew that the sea of thunderbolts contained many powerful, profound meanings. Even Gu Min and the patriarchs of the Gu family knew, let alone Hu Lang. However, profound meanings were not something that could be learned at one's will. One could spend years here, let alone a few days. If one could not learn anything, one would not be able to. Hu Lang observed for a couple of hours, but nothing changed. He didn't want to waste any more time. He closed his eyes and sat with his legs crossed to study the profound meanings he had learned before. At his realm and age, everyone would understand that it was not wise to bite off more than one could chew. Instead of looking for opportunities to learn new profound meanings, it was better to study the profound meanings from before. When the profound meaning was mastered to the extreme, the profound meaning could evolve. For example, Mingyu Space Seal was an evolution of the force he had learned before. Low-level profound meanings could evolve to high-level ones, provided that the warrior had mastered the profound meaning to the extreme. Before he knew it, it was night. Luli had been observing for a whole day without learning anything. He could tell that the violent thunderbolts contained miraculous laws and profound meanings, but he could not capture any profound meaning. It was true that profound meanings could not be learned at once while Little White was still jumping in and out of the sea excitedly. Luli could not leave Little White here, so he had to keep it company. He planned to sit here for a couple of days and go back when the teleportation formation was repaired. The more powerful Little White was, the more powerful Hu Lang would be. Little White was not his spiritual beast, but it was no different from one. In the middle of the night, Hu Lang suddenly opened his eyes and looked to the northeast. He was relieved to see that it was a patriarch of the Gu family. He asked from the distance, "What is it?" The patriarch of the Gu family flew up and stood on the chariot. He cupped his fists to Lu Li and Hu Lang and said, "Thousands of miles to the northeast, there is a small island where many warriors have gathered. Several noble Lord Realm warriors of the Island of Tranquility are there. I think they have found some treasures." Treasures? Lu Li and Hu Lang looked at each other. Lu Li murmured to himself, "What treasures can there be in the sea?" Chapter 655. Thousands of miles to the northeast, there was an island that was once occupied by a small family. There were too many islands in the sea. Many small families that could not make a living in the Central Plains would choose to occupy an island here and then risk their lives to get some mystical materials so that their families would not starve to death. On the surface, the small families were dependent on the Island of Tranquility. But the Island of Tranquility didn't like to control the small families. They didn't have much to gain, so the Island of Tranquility allowed them to develop. The small family on the island was in a miserable state. When the thunderstorm passed by, only a dozen of the more than 1,000 people of the small family managed to escape. The rest were struck to death when the thunderstorm passed. The more than a dozen returned to the island in sorrow. They were ready to bury the dead bodies one by one. Only now did they realize that there was a huge crack on the island. There was a faint golden glow in the crack. They found a small underground palace. The dozens of survivors of the small family were excited by this discovery. If they could find some treasures in there, the family could rise up quickly. Wives could be remarried and children could be born again. As long as they could get some wealth, the family could rise up quickly. However, of the more than a dozen of them, 10 went down, but they all died in an instant. The most powerful warrior of the small family was only at the Fate Wheel realm. Naturally, they didn't dare to take the risk. They asked for help from nearby forces, hoping that they could explore the treasures together. Unexpectedly, the news was leaked. All the powerful warriors nearby were on their way. Underground palace? Lu Li and Hu Lang were intrigued. There were many powerful warriors at the Great Land, and many preferred to pursue the Tao alone because they believed family ties and worldly affairs would affect their minds. Therefore, when these powerful warriors were about to pass away, they would find a secluded place to build a palace and hide their treasures in there, since they had no descendants. Whoever was fated could have their treasures. Hu Lang was eager to take action after hearing the patriarch of the Gu family. Lu Li, on the other hand, had some concerns. This area was under the influence of the Island of Tranquility. If they went to fight for treasures, the force under the great Buddhist temple would not be happy. Their relationship with the great Buddhist temple would be affected. Lu Li was not in need of treasures. He even had quasi-relics. Never mind. Lu Li thought about it for a while. Seeing that the patriarch of the Gu family was itching to try, Lu Li waved his hand and said, "You can go and have a look, but don't go and fight for the treasures. If you need help, you can help. That island lord knows my identity. If you help him, he will definitely share some of the treasures with you." All right, the patriarch of the Gu family left in excitement. He was here to ask for Lu Li's opinion. If Lu Li didn't allow them to go, they wouldn't have the courage to stir up trouble. Hu Lang pondered for a moment, but did not pay too much attention to it. He was a human sovereign, the leader of the Celestial Wolf Mountain. Ordinary treasures did not interest him, unless there was a semi-divine artifact inside. But this was basically impossible. Almost all the known semi-divine weapons in the Divine Great Land were in the hands of the super families. Little White was still moving in and out of the sea. Lu Li watched for a while and then sat down with his legs crossed. Hu Lang did the same, and sat down with his legs crossed. When it was almost dawn, a noise came from afar, waking Lu Li and Hu Lang up. The two of them opened their eyes and saw an elder of the Gu clan dashing over with blood all over his body. They immediately had a bad feeling. Something is wrong. The patriarch of the Gu family shouted from the distance. There are powerful guardian walking puppets and inhibition formations in the underground palace. Third young master and the other patriarchs are trapped in there. Young Master Li, Lord Hu, come and save them. Walking puppets, that is a skill from the ancient times. Hu Lang was solemn. Could it be that a powerful warrior from the ancient times was buried in the underground palace? Otherwise, how could there be walking puppets guarding the tomb? Little White, come back! Lu Li shouted to Little White in the distance. Unfortunately, his roar was too loud for Little White to hear and pay no attention to Lu Li. Lu Li shouted several times, but Little White still didn't hear him. Lu Li had to ask the patriarch to stay. It would be troublesome if Little White ran away after it couldn't find him. Let's go. Hu Lang was at the middle stage of the human sovereign realm. Lu Li himself was not weak. The Gu family had made a great contribution this time. Naturally, he could not stand by and watch Gu Min and the others die. Lu Li and Hu Lang released their fate wheels and beads of life, respectively. They rushed toward the northeast at the top of their speed. In the time for one incense stick to burn, they had covered the distance of 3,000 miles. Before they got closer, they could already see a glaring light from a small island, and there were obvious Xian Qi fluctuations. Whoosh, 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 there were some small families and some pirate legions on some islands nearby. They all swarmed over when they heard the news. But the island was surrounded by the armies of the island of tranquility. Average people were not allowed in. Therefore, many warriors were hiding in the sea outside the island, on the reefs, and on the deserted islands nearby. They were all warriors from nearby forces, but none of them dared to go into the underground palace to grab the treasures. Unless there was a powerful warrior that could kill all the warriors of the island of tranquility and not leak any information, anyone that dared to do anything rash would be hunted down by the great Buddhist temple and other forces. Guys, this is a curfew. The island owner of the island of tranquility has ordered that nobody is allowed in. Lu Li and Hu Lang were stopped. But Hu Lang's powerful qi and energy at the human sovereign realm put pressure on the more than a dozen warriors who were blocking their way. Lu Li cupped his fists and said, I am Lu Li. Go and tell your island owner. He will let me in. I have some servants in there. Oh, young Master Lu, please come in. As soon as Lu Li introduced himself, the warriors didn't dare to stop him. They all behaved with respect. Hu Lang smiled at Lu Li as if he was saying in a wordless way that Lu Li was so famous that everyone knew him. Lu Li was not in the mood to chat with Hu Lang. He flew into the island and scanned with psychic power. What he saw was shocking. There were burnt bodies everywhere on the island. They must be the family members that were ravaged by the thunderstorm. There was a huge crack in the middle of the island. The golden glow came from the crack. Lu Li and Hu Lang checked with psychic power, but could not see the bottom. The crack must be deep. The island owner of the island of tranquility was standing by the crack with a group of warriors. Seeing Lu Li coming down, the island owner saluted with respect and said, Young Master Lu, nice to meet you. I am Wei Yuan, and my family patriarch is Wei Tiandi. Lu Li didn't know this Wei Tiandi. He only knew that the island of tranquility belonged to the Wei family, a 7th-rank family affiliated with the great Buddhist temple. Lu Li nodded and asked, What's going on down there? Wei Yuan was an old man at the peak of the noble lord realm. He looked down with a frown and said, The underground palace is not large. There are only 2 halls and the outer one. But the outer hall is already dangerous. I sent hundreds down, and more than half of them were killed. Chapter 656. The Wei family was strong. It was one of the top 3 7th-rank families affiliated with the great Buddhist temple. The Wei family had many powerful warriors, including Earth Immortal Realm warriors. That being said, this was not a region controlled by the Wei family. The The Wei family didn't have an advantage here. With so many warriors lurking nearby, the news might have gotten out. Powerful warriors might arrive soon. Maybe the treasures would be taken away before the Wei family could send reinforcements. Therefore, Wei Yuan offered to split the treasures 50-50, hoping that Hu Lang would try his best to conquer the palace and get the treasures. Of course, Lu Li had a distinguished identity, and Wei Yuan wanted to please him. Wei Yuan didn't know the details, but he did hear that the abbot of the great Buddhist temple had an audience with Lu Li. That was a clear sign. Even if Jiang Wuo were here, the abbot who had lived for thousands of years would meet him. Since he could meet Lu Li, it meant that Lu Li would be the most distinguished guest of the great Buddhist temple. How could Wei Yuan not fawn over Lu Li? Let's go. Lu Li didn't care about the treasures. All he cared about was Gu Min and the others. He waved his hand and rushed into the crack with Hu Lang. Wei Yuan was scared. Honorable as Lu Li was, he was only at the peak of the eternal realm. Wouldn't it be suicide for him to go down? Wei Ru, you'll be in charge here. Let me know if there are powerful warriors trying to break in. Wei Yuan said to one of the eternal realm warriors. Then he went down with the other two noble Lord Realm warriors, chasing after Lu Li and Hu Lang. The crack was deep. Lu Li and Hu Lang had been going down for thousands of feet, but they still hadn't reached the bottom. They could already sense the bottom with psychic power. They found a tunnel glowing in golden light. That should be the entrance to the underground palace. How can thunderbolts come out of such a deep crack? Lu Li was confused. Even if thunderbolts could blow up the island, it could only create a crack of hundreds of feet at most. How could there be a crack of tens of thousands of feet? That being said, Lu Li wasn't worried since someone had gone in before. He rushed into the tunnel with Hu Lang. After a glare, they found themselves in a huge hall. The hall was at least 30,000 feet long and wide. It shone with a golden light, and there were huge pillars around it that required several people to encircle it. The pillars were engraved with barren mountains, lofty ridges, monsters, and venomous insects. There were even ancient characters on them. Everything showed that this underground palace had existed for a very long time. Bang, 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 the two of them scanned the area carelessly, and their gazes immediately locked onto the two galloping monsters in the distance, as well as the crowd that was fleeing in fear. There were many corpses in the main hall, and they were all badly mutilated. Many of them were wearing the Wei family's armor, and they were probably the first batch of people to be killed by the monsters. Young Master Li, Lord Hu, Gu Min, and the two patriarchs of the Gu family were overjoyed to see Lu Li and Hu Lang. There were dozens of people in the hall. All of them were delighted to see a human sovereign realm warrior come in. Two people were being chased by monsters, and they shouted, "Sir, save us!" Whoosh! Without any hesitation, a giant axe appeared in Hu Lang's hand, and he charged forward. Lu Li didn't act rashly. He stared at the two strange-looking monsters. The two monsters were not large in size. They were standing upright, like humans with a huge turtle shell on their backs. They seemed to be made of some special metal. There were ancient patterns all over their bodies, and they had facial features as well. But they were like statues, motionless, and their eyeballs wouldn't move. What was strange was that their movements weren't restricted. They were as fast as wind, no slower than warriors at the peak of the noble Lord realm. Their weapons were two chain hammers with spikes on them. That was why the warriors that were killed died without a whole body. It was a tragic sight. Buzzing, after a flash of white light, Wei Yuan and the two noble Lord Realm warriors came out. Wei Yuan shouted to Lu Li at once, "The exit is over there. Young Master Lu, go. I will help you deal with the walking puppets over there." Wei Yuan pointed to a dark hole in the corner. Lu Li noticed that a walking puppet had been wandering around nearby. It didn't go far, as if it was guarding the exit. Do these walking puppets have souls? Lu Li was confused. They seemed to be inanimate objects with no signs of life. They seemed to be made of some strange metal. Yes. Wei Yuan's answer shocked Lu Li. Wei Yuan explained, according to historical records, there are powerful souls of Xin Bi sealed inside the walking puppets. Therefore, they will listen to their master's orders. That walking puppet must have been ordered by the master of the underground palace to guard the exit. We only managed to get out after risking our lives. Don't be in such a hurry. Since this walking puppet won't leave the area, Hu Lang can deal with one. We're safe now. Lu Li waved his hand. Wei Yuan was relieved, as he thought Lu Li was right. Lu Li was of high status. Hu Lang couldn't let anything happen to Lu Li, or he would be killed by the great Buddhist temple. Whoosh! The survivors all gathered around Lu Li. Many of them were injured. One of them even had a broken leg. It was a ghastly sight to see. Boom! Hu Lang was fighting with one of the walking puppets. Lu Li's expressions changed as he threw a few glances. The walking puppet was only smashed away for dozens of feet. Then it crawled back up and resumed attacking Hu Lang. There was no wound on the walking puppet, alas. Wei Yuan glanced at it and felt a little depressed. After thinking for a while, he said, "These walking puppets were created by a special ancient race. It is said that they were made of meteoric iron. Only a human sovereign realm warrior or an earth immortal realm warrior with powerful attack power can destroy them. Once, these walking puppets caused great harm to humans. Luckily, that ancient race was wiped out and all the walking puppets were destroyed. The method of making walking puppets was lost. I didn't know that there were two of them in this underground palace." Boom, boom, boom. Hu Lang didn't believe it. He used his profound meaning and attacked for more than a dozen times. Every time, the walking puppet would be smashed away. But still, he couldn't inflict any harm on the walking puppet. Lu Li didn't move. He had been using psychic power to check the walking puppet. Unfortunately, there seemed to be a powerful inhibition formation inside. When he used psychic power, he found nothing but a blur inside. Hu Lang distract the walking puppet. After a while, Lu Li decided to give it a try. He took out his divine weapon of Dragon King and began to generate clones on his fate wheel. Ignoring Wei Yuan's shouts of terror, Lu Li controlled dozens of clones to dash toward the walking puppet. Okay. Hu Lang knew that Lu Li's attacks were ferocious. He once almost killed Recluse Solar Dragon in one move. His figure flickered as he circled around the puppet beast, attracting its attention. Lu Li controlled several clones to approach the walking puppet. The walking puppet smashed the clones one by one with its hammer. Seeing this, Lu Li had no more concerns. He found a chance and smashed at the walking puppet's head with his divine weapon of Dragon King from an angle. 27 vibrations spread in. Hu Lang's eyes were filled with desire as he waited for the walking puppet to fall to the ground. However, the walking puppet didn't even shake. It didn't even feel like it was being attacked. It swung its hammer at Lu Li at a fast speed. Lu Li couldn't dodge the attack and was smashed away by the hammer. He spat out blood in midair. Young Master Lu, young Master Li, Wei Yuan, and Gu Min were frightened. If something were to happen to Lu Li, both of them would be doomed. P.S. Today was supposed to be the weekend, and 4 chapters were supposed to be released. But after some consideration, he decided to release 3 chapters from today until the end of the month. The fewer chapters would be released on the 31st. He hoped to release as many chapters as possible on the 31st. Chapter 657. The patriarchs of the Gu family didn't look well either. The Gu family had gone to the Cloud Prowess Empire. If Lu Li died, how could the Gu family live a good life? Hu Lang was scared out of his wits. He didn't go to Lu Li's rescue. Instead, he smashed at the walking puppet with his axe, smashing away the walking puppet that was about to kill Lu Li. "I am okay." Lu Li stood up after rolling on the ground. His robe was torn, and a piece of flesh on his left shoulder was cut off. Blood was still coming out of his mouth, but he was not seriously injured. He was wearing a soft armor of the holy grade. The fact that he spat out blood was because his internal organs were hurt by the force. This walking puppet is strange. He stood up, wiped the blood off his mouth, took out a pellet, and swallowed it. He was confused. Wei Yuan said that the walking puppet had a soul. There was a remnant soul of a powerful Xian beast sealed inside. Judging from the intelligence the walking puppet showed, Lu Li believed that it did have a soul. However, he didn't find any soul in the brain of the walking puppet when he sent in the horrifying vibration waves. The brain of the walking puppet was made of strange metal. It was an iron brain without a soul. Is the soul hiding somewhere else? Lee's eyes glowed. He looked at the turtle shell on the back of the walking puppet. After some thoughts, he said to Hu Lang, we will work together. After I attack, you smash the walking puppet away. Hu Lang checked with psychic power. He nodded after making sure that Li was okay. Wei Yuan and the others wanted to say something, but Li flew up again and generated dozens of clones. Whoosh, the divine weapon of Dragon King pierced through the sky and smashed at the turtle shell on the back of the walking puppet. Li followed the vibration waves of strength and soul with his psychic power, trying to sense if there was something like a soul inside. There is. Li thought of something. His vibration waves swept across like ripples, and he sensed something strange. Boom! At once, he controlled the vibration waves of strength to attack the strange thing, and then the soul vibration waves went in to attack the strange energy. Boom! As soon as Li finished his attack, Hu Lang smashed the walking puppet away with one swing of his axe. Li looked over at once. Everyone was staring at the walking puppet. All right, seeing the puppet beast lying motionless on the ground like a pile of scrap metal, everyone's eyes lit up. Wei Yuan shouted excitedly. Li and Hu Lang checked with psychic power. Li controlled several clones to check. They were relieved to make sure that the walking puppets were motionless. Young Master Li, you're amazing. Hu Lang gave Li a thumbs up. He had already confirmed that he wouldn't be able to destroy the walking puppets with his attack power, but Li could do it so easily. Li flew over and put the walking puppets into his interspatial ring. They were his trophies. He looked at the golem beast at the exit and nodded to Hu Lang. Destroy that one as well. Whoosh, Li and Hu Lang flew over. Hu Lang distracted the walking puppet, while Li launched sneak attacks. After one round of attacks, the bee soul inside the walking puppet was shattered. Since the bee soul inside had been shattered, the puppet beast naturally couldn't move. Without the control of the beast soul, it was a dead object. How could it move on its own? Young Master Lu, you are awesome. Wei Yuan walked over in excitement. The others came over and thanked him with gratitude. If Li and Hu Lang didn't come in, there would be less than 5 of them that could have escaped. You guys go out now. We will go and check the inner hall. Now that they were here, Li would not leave so easily. Wei Yuan said that they could split the treasures. He was not a saint, and this was the tomb of a powerful warrior from ancient times. On the east wall, there was a dark gate. The group left quickly, leaving only Hu Lang, Li, Wei Yuan, and 3 other noble Lord Rel warriors. Hu Lang chopped at the gate with his axe. Bang! The gate let out a muffled sound. There was a black glow on the gate with some ancient characters glistening. There must be some powerful inhibition formations in the gate. It would be hard to break it open with brute force. Just now, with the walking puppets chasing after them, nobody thought of going into the inner hall. Now, they were all using psychic power to look for the mechanism. Found it. We are lucky. I have seen this formation before. In the time for one incense stick to burn, Hu Lang's eyes glowed. He stared at the pattern on the gate and grinned. He poured out Xian energy to attack at the beast carvings on the gate. Wei Yuan and the others could not understand it, and neither could Li. Hu Lang stopped after he poured out 27 strands of Xian energy. After a while, the gate opened up quietly. Everyone was overjoyed. The 2 warriors behind Wei Yuan wanted to rush in out of instinct, but were stopped by Wei Yuan. Wei Yuan said with a smile, "How about Lord Hu and young Master Lu go in and have a look first? We can come back later." Li and Hu Lang looked at each other, thinking that Wei Yuan was a smart guy. It was clear that Wei Yuan wanted them to go in. Li and Hu Lang could take the good stuff first, and they could divide it later. The 2 warriors behind Wei Yuan pouted, not happy with Wei Yuan's decision. Li, on the other hand, wouldn't take advantage of them. He shrugged and said, "Let's go in together. You stay behind us." Even though there was no sign of life or danger, they were still cautious. Li sent several clones in to have a look first, while Hu Lang used psychic power to check the surroundings. As soon as they stepped into the inner hall, they were cheered up. It was a small room with a golden coffin in the middle. In front of the coffin was a table with 3 ancient interspatial rings on it. Apart from these, there was nothing else inside. All the treasures must be in the 3 interspatial rings. The 2 warriors of the Wei family were filled with greed. As far as they were concerned, since the land around here belonged to the island of tranquility, the treasures should belong to the Wei family. Wei Yuan didn't move. He said with a smile, "Young Master Lu, do you want to see what is in the 3 rings?" Lu Li didn't refuse. He walked over with Hu Lang, and each picked up an interspatial ring to check with psychic power. Secret skill. In the interspatial ring Lu Li picked up was an ancient animal skin scroll with dense ancient characters written on it. Lu Li focused his psychic power on the ancient characters. Soon his soul trembled violently. At the top of the scroll was method of making walking puppets. Lu Li had just experienced the power of walking puppets. Without his soul-shattering skill, not even human sovereign realm warriors could destroy them. Lu Li was excited, but he pretended to be calm. Hu Lang put down the interspatial ring and said, "There's a beast claw here. It seems to be the claw of a beast king." Wei Yuan and the others came over. Hu Lang even gave the interspatial ring to Wei Yuan. Hu Lang picked up the other ring. Soon, his eyes glowed as he said, "There are many treasures here. Holy grade Xian artifact, mystical materials, pellets. Well, there should be more than 1 billion purple Xian crystals in here." More than 1 billion? Chapter 658. Xian crystals were not tempting to Lu Li. He had 1.8 billion purple Xian crystals. Looking at the expressions of the 2 noble Lord Realm warriors of the Wei family, Lu Li had an idea. He casually tossed the ring to Hu Lang and said, "This is a secret technique scroll. It seems like these are the treasures here. My luck is pretty good this time. I came in and picked up some treasures for free." Lu Li's words upset the 2 warriors of the Wei family even more. The 2 didn't know much about Lu Li's identity. They were blinded by the treasures and greed. If it were not for the fact that Hu Lang was at the human sovereign realm, they would have tried to take Lu Li away. Wei Yuan was a more rational person. Hearing Lu Li's words and seeing the mocking smile on Lu Li's face, he knew that Lu Li was being sarcastic. Wei Yuan quickly said with a smile, "Young Master Lu, you must be joking. How can it be free? If it weren't for your efforts, we wouldn't have been able to obtain these treasures. If you want to talk about picking them up for free, it's us who picked them up for free." Hee hee. Lu Li took the 3 interspatial rings from Hu Lang. He used psychic power to check the interspatial ring that contained more than 1 billion mystical materials. Lu Li checked carefully to make sure that they were all mystical materials, Xian artifacts, and other treasures. Throwing the ring to Wei Yuan, Lu Li said, "This is your territory. Any human sovereign realm warrior of the Wei family can take it even without our help. I will take this secret skill and this beast claw. I am not short of mystical materials and mystic crystals." "How can we do that?" Wei Yuan's divine sense had just swept the space ring containing the secret technique and knew that there was only one secret technique inside, but it was written in an ancient language and he couldn't understand what it was. Ancient secret techniques were very valuable, but they were very difficult to comprehend. Moreover, some ancient secret techniques were only suitable for special races to cultivate. Humans cannot cultivate them at all. Therefore, if this secret skill were to be auctioned, it would probably only fetch 1 or 200 million purple Xian crystals. In the other ring, there was an unknown beast claw. It looked horrible, and there might be origin blood essence in it. But even if it was the origin blood essence of a beast king, how many Xian crystals could it be worth? It was supposed to be 50 to 50. If Lu Li only wanted the secret skill and the beast claw, then they would have a big advantage. Wei Yuan had wanted to give Lu Li a bigger share to please him. How could he take more? Why not? I'll have to trouble you to tell the noble head that I, Lu, have respected him for a long time. The next time I go to Zhongzhou, I hope to pay him a visit. Lu Li put away the 2 interspatial rings without even checking what kind of beast claw it was. He was determined to get the skill to make walking puppets, which was priceless. Luli wouldn't be tempted even if he had 10 billion purple Xian crystals, let alone billions of purple Xian crystals. Is that so? All right then, I'll definitely relay young Master Lu's words to the clan leader. Since Luli had said so, Wei Yuan couldn't say anything else. Secretly, he admired Lu Li's wisdom. Family patriarchs and family patriarchs of the Wei family would think more highly of Lu Li when they heard about this. Hu Lang, see if there are any more good items. If not, we'll go back up. Lu Li looked into the hall and successfully diverted everyone's attention. Wei Yuan and the Wei family's spiritual force started to scan the interior, afraid that something good had been left behind. A noble Lord Realm warrior of the Wei family looked into the golden coffin. He tried to use psychic power to check, but was blocked by the inhibition formation in the coffin. With a glint of coldness in his eyes, he smashed at the coffin lid. Don't do anything rash. Lu Li was looking around the room. Seeing that the Wei family warrior was going to smash the coffin, Lu Li shouted angrily. Hu Lang stood in front of Lu Li at once, as if he was facing a formidable enemy. Bang! The noble Lord Realm warrior of the Wei family didn't stop there. He slapped at the coffin lid, trying to crack it open to see if there were any treasures in there. Buzzing, the coffin lid glowed. The coffin didn't shake at all, but the patterns on the coffin lit up. The threads connected quickly. Then a streak of dark green energy rushed into the palm of the noble Lord Realm warrior of the Wei family. Then something horrifying happened. The noble Lord Realm warrior of the Wei family let out a miserable cry. His palm was corroded at a horrifying speed. Before anyone could react, the skin and flesh on one of his arms had melted into a puddle of blood that spread to his entire body. Lu Li wanted to take out his divine weapon of Dragon King and cut off his shoulder. But the speed of the corrosion was too fast for him to react. Soon, the Wei family warrior became nothing but a skeleton. Lu Li sighed and looked at Hu Lang. Hu Lang pouted. He could have cut off that man's hand, but he didn't because he didn't like the two warriors of the Wei family. Wei Yuan and the other warrior were frightened. Seeing Wei Yuan looking at them, Lu Li sighed and said, "The master of the underground palace has put all the treasures outside. There shouldn't be any more treasures in the coffin. The coffin is where he stores his body. How can he allow others to desecrate his body? This man is proficient in inhibition formations. Naturally, he must have something up his sleeves." Wei Yuan came to his senses. He nodded in agreement and moved away from the coffin out of instinct. He checked around with psychic power. After making sure that there were no treasures, he decided to leave and send someone in to have a closer look. "Let's go." Hu Lang checked carefully. He didn't want to stay here any longer after he made sure that there were no treasures. The inhibition formations set by the master of the underground palace were strange. He didn't want to be trapped in there. The four of them walked out. They looked around the outer hall and then went into the black hole. With a glare, the black hole appeared in the crack. Hu Lang flew up first, followed by Lu Li and Wei Yuan. Something is wrong. Before they landed on the island, Hu Lang suddenly stopped. Lu Li and Wei Yuan looked at each other. Lu Li asked with confusion, "What is it? The people up there are gone." Hu Lang's psychic power was stronger than theirs, so he could sense what was going on up there earlier. His expressions were clouded. His eyes flickered as he said in a deep voice, "Something is wrong. Something must have happened." "What?" Wei Yuan and Wei Yuan's expressions changed. The other noble Lord Realm warrior of the Wei family flew up at once. But before he could do that, a crescent moon came down from the sky and cut the noble Lord Realm warrior in half. "Zhao Moyang, there is an ambush." "Fall back," Hu Lang yelled. He pulled Lu Li down at once. Lu Li vaguely sensed with psychic power that 3 people were rushing down into the crack. 3 human sovereign realm warriors and recluse solar dragon? Lu Li yelled in surprise. He sensed a bald man and 2 unfamiliar queens. Lu Li's face was clouded. He turned to Wei Yuan at once, only to see that Wei Yuan was also frightened. Lu Li realized that this had nothing to do with the Wei family. "Run to the underground palace," Lu Li shouted, which startled Wei Yuan. The latter flew down at once. He was frightened, but his expression quickly turned into one of rage. As he flew down, he roared, "You dare to kill someone from the Wei family? You are too bold. Are you not afraid of the great Buddhist temple exterminating your 3 families?" "Idiot," Lu Li sneered to himself. This was clearly a well-planned plot. He had been wondering how the thunderstorm could create such a deep crack on the island. Now it seemed that it was man-made. What was more, Lu Li was wondering if the thunderstorm was formed naturally or man-made. The purpose was to set up a trap to kill him. Lu Li was very familiar with such an intricate setup that allowed them to fall into the trap without making a sound. A handsome face and a beautiful face appeared in his mind. Lu Xuan and Ji Mengtian. Chapter 659. The island of tranquility was at sea, not at the central plains or the clouds plains. It was a good location. The ones who ambushed Lu Li and Hu Lang were recluse solar dragon and 2 unfamiliar human sovereign realm warriors. Lu Li could tell from Hu Lang's furious eyes that they were the 2 human sovereign realm warriors that escaped from the Serenity Plains. Recluse solar dragon's soul pond was injured by Lu Li. He would need at least half a year to recover. Since he could recover so fast, someone must have given him some elixirs in secret. When Lu Li went to the Central Plains, it was said that the 2 human sovereign realm warriors of the Serenity Plains had escaped. There were only 2 ways for them to go. The first was to find a place to hide and plan. The second was to go to the Central Plains and seek refuge with a major family. Whichever way they chose, the 2 human sovereign realm warriors should not be here. Recluse Solar Dragon was here as well. Unless there was a powerful force behind the scenes, the 3 human sovereign realm warriors would not be here. Apart from the 12 royal families, Lu Li could not think of any other force that could know their whereabouts so easily and set up such a grand scheme. Naturally, Lu Li pointed the finger at Lu Xuan, Ji Mengtian, and Yang Xian. Recluse Solar Dragon and the 2 human sovereign realm warriors of the Serenity Plains all hated Lu Li. If the 3 of them killed Lu Li, the mastermind would kill the 3 of them. Everything would be perfect. Grand Master of the Demon-Slaying Hall might have doubts, but what could he do without proof? Buzzing, Lu Li, Hu Lang, and Wei Yuan rushed into the underground palace. Lu Li had forgotten about the mastermind. It was pointless to dwell on it. The most important thing now was how to survive. If there were only 1 human sovereign realm warrior, Lu Li and Hu Lang could work together. But if there were 2, it would be more stressful. But there were 3. Let's go to the inner hall. Arriving at the underground palace, Hu Lang led Lu Li into the inner hall without any hesitation. The outer hall had nothing to rely on. It was no different from the outside of the island. Wei Yuan was in a panic. He had to follow Lu Li and Hu Lang into the inner hall. Inside the inner hall, Hu Lang poured out Xian energy at once. The 2 doors closed quickly. Even though the doors separated the inner hall from the outer hall, the fear in Wei Yuan's eyes was still there. If Hu Lang could find a mechanism to open the doors, why couldn't the 3 human sovereign realm warriors outside? Buzzing, Wei Yuan quickly came to his senses. He took out a jade talisman and crushed it. This was the highest level jade talisman in the Wei family. Once the elders of the Wei family were crushed, they would know that something had happened to the Island of Tranquility and would definitely send experts to help. Hu Lang also took out a jade talisman and crushed it. This was to inform Lu Ling, even though he did not know what she could do. The teleportation formation between 9 Serene Island and Cloud Prefecture was destroyed. The experts of Cloud Prefecture could not teleport over quickly. It would take a long time for them to fly over. Still, he crushed the jade talisman to let Lu Ling know that something was wrong. Don't worry about that. Lu Li stared at the gate and said, Hu Lang, think of a way to control the inhibition formation on the gate. As long as the gate cannot be opened from the outside, we will be safe. Okay, Hu Lang focused all his attention on the restrictions on the door. He wanted to think of a way to control the restrictions on the door or change the restrictions so that the people outside would not be able to open the door. When the Renhuangs of the Wei family and the Empire of Cloud Prowess arrived, they would be safe. Bang! Soon, there came a slight noise. Clearly, the three human sovereign realm warriors came in and began to attack the gate, trying to blast it open. Wei Yuan was worried, but Luli was calm. Human sovereign realm warriors could not blast open the gate with brute force. Earth immortal realm warriors would have a better chance. Hu Lang understood this as well. After the time for 2 incense sticks to burn, his eyes glowed, and he said, I can find a way to imprison the inhibition formation on the gate. But I don't have many earth crystals with me. I think I can only imprison it for 1 day at most. Imprison it first. 1 day was not enough. The Wei family's territory was not at the seaside. It would take them 2 or 3 days to teleport over. As for Lu Ling sending reinforcements, it would take her even longer. It would be better to imprison the inhibition formation for 1 day. Maybe the 3 human sovereign realm warriors outside would think that they could not break the inhibition formation and would give up and leave. Hu Lang took out a huge yellow crystal and melted it into balls of yellow energy. Then, he put his other hand on the gate. Streaks of yellow energy surged out from his hand and surged toward the gate in a specific pattern like yellow snakes. Ancient formation sealing skill? Wei Yuan looked at it and murmured in confusion. He saw the yellow lines on the door condense into a 9 palaces, 8 trigrams pattern. He nodded and said, It is indeed an ancient technique. Master Hu is knowledgeable, very powerful. Hu Lang said nothing. He continued to melt the yellow crystal to make the 9 palaces and 8 trigrams formation more condensed. When a yellow crystal was completely melted and all the energy was injected into the pattern on the gate, Hu Lang stopped and explained to Lu Li, This ancient skill was created by an ancient race. It can enhance inhibition formations, break them, restrict them, and change them. I have only a part of it, and I can only imprison the inhibition formation for 1 day. I don't have enough earth crystals, or else I can hold it for several days. Now that the inhibition formation on the gate was sealed, it was impossible for the warriors outside to break it. It would be even harder to break it by force. The 3 of them shouldn't be able to do so within a short time. Boom, boom, boom. The gate kept shaking as the 3 kept attacking. Lu Li and the other 2 stood behind the gate nervously, ready to take action at any time. The time for 1 incense stick to burn, 3 incense sticks to burn, and an hour passed. The 3 of them had been blasting at the gate for an hour, but there was no sign of the gate being damaged. Lu Li and the other 2 were relieved. It would be difficult to break the inhibition formation by force, at least not in a short time. There were 3 human sovereign realm warriors outside. Lu Li and the other 2 had no fighting spirit. If the 3 broke in, Lu Li would have to wait for his death. The other 2 are human sovereign realm warriors of the Serenity Plains? Lu Li asked. Hu Lang nodded and said, Yes, one of them is Zhao Moyang, the master of the Palace of Crystals. He is at the middle stage of a human sovereign realm and has learned a 7th rank profound meaning. The other one is Great Patriarch Li Yang of the Alliance of Stars. He is at the initial stage of the human sovereign realm. You know the bald one as well, Dragon Solar Turtle. Lu Li snorted and forced himself to calm down. Complaining and getting angry would not help. He might as well think about how to improve his abilities in a short time so that he could survive. But how could he improve his abilities in 1 day? Even if he could improve his abilities and make some breakthroughs in profound meanings, it wouldn't help. Take the soul-shattering skill as an example. Even if Lu Li's strength and soul waves could reach hundreds and he could kill a human sovereign realm warrior in 1 move, he would have to be close to 1. Once the human sovereign realm's force field was activated, Lu Li would have to wait for his death. Right? Walking puppets. Lu Li remembered the book on how to make walking puppets. An idea came to his mind. If he could repair those 2 destroyed puppet beasts, it would be a great help to him. The 2 walking puppets, and Hu Lang could deal with 3 human sovereign realm warriors. Lu Li could find a chance to launch a sneak attack. He still had a chance to win. P.S. There are only a few days left until the 31st. Chapter 660. Keep an eye out. Lu Li decided to give it a try. He wanted to see if he could learn something about puppetry in 1 day. He didn't need to make walking puppets. He just needed to repair the 2 walking puppets and be able to control them. Lu Li walked into the inner hall and took out a secret skill to study. Hu Lang and Wei Yuan looked at it and forced a smile. Making a last-minute effort, Lu Li was too naive. How much combat power could a secret skill increase? If a secret skill could allow a warrior of the Eternal Realm to kill a human sovereign realm warrior, then it would be a divine skill. Well, even if it was a divine skill, could Lu Li learn it in one day? Wishful thinking. Wei Yuan sighed, but said nothing. He kept staring at the door nervously in the situation outside. Hu Lang didn't dare to leave. He stayed behind the door at all times, ready to risk his life. Lu Li had been studying the ancient language for some time. He might not be proficient, but he could recognize the words and understand the meaning. He held the hide scroll in his hands and read it carefully. It was a large scroll with tens of thousands of words densely packed together. It was hard to read. It took Lu Li more than 4 hours to finish reading all the words and understand the meaning clearly. 4 hours later, there were still some muffled sounds coming from the door. The 3 human sovereign realm warriors had not given up. They had been trying to crack the inhibition formation. Every inhibition formation had to be supported by energy. Every attack would consume the energy of the inhibition formation. The 3 human sovereign realm warriors were ferocious. Maybe they thought that as long as they kept attacking, the energy of the inhibition formation would run out sooner or later and the door could be blasted open. Alas! Lu Li checked the situation outside first and then sighed. After reading all the words on the hide scroll, Lu Li understood that he could not repair the walking puppets. Walking puppets required beast souls. Without beast souls, they were nothing but a pile of scrap iron. Lu Li was trapped in the inner hall now. Where could he get powerful beast souls? Also, the way to make walking puppets was complicated. Even if Lu Li had beast souls, without help, he would not be able to repair the walking puppets without days of work. Lu Li threw the scroll into his interspatial ring and began to think of other ways. It had been more than 4 hours and the attacks had not stopped. Recluse Solar Dragon and the other 2 human sovereign realm warriors would not leave easily. They dared to surround Lu Li and the others because they knew that the reinforcements of the Wei family would not arrive anytime soon. Lu Li didn't get up. He continued to sit in the corner with his legs crossed and meditated. He thought for a couple of hours, but still couldn't come up with a solution. Bang, bang, bang. The sound of attacks outside seemed to be getting louder and louder. Lu Li glanced over to Hu Lang and Wei Yuan. They looked gloomy, and Wei Yuan was even paler. The energy in the underground palace is decreasing. Lu Li stood up abruptly and asked. Hu Lang nodded bitterly and said, "Yes, this underground palace has existed for so many years. There is not much energy left to support the inhibition formation. I'm afraid he won't be able to hold on for long after being attacked by 3 human sovereign realm warriors. But don't worry, young Master Li," Hu Lang added. "When the door is blasted open, I will kill my way out and temporarily suppress Long Yang and the other 2. Take the opportunity to rush to the exit. After you escape, I will immediately destroy the passage. Although it won't be able to trap the 3 of them for too long, it won't be a problem for a few incense sticks to burn. You can immediately teleport to the island of tranquility and leave." Hu Lang had been thinking about this for a long time. He must be confident that he could come up with this plan. Wei Yuan became paler. Hu Lang would create a chance for Lu Li to escape, and he wouldn't care about Lu Li's life. Wei Yuan's expressions changed. Finally, he made up his mind and said, "Young Master Lu, I will try my best to stall one of them as well. Once young Master Lu is out of danger, please inform my clan head and ask him to treat my family well." Wei Yuan was ready to die with Hu Lang. They were going to die anyway, so he might as well help Lu Li escape. Lu Li was the most distinguished guest of the Great Buddhist Temple since he was received by the abbot of the Great Buddhist Temple. Even the family patriarch of the Wei family had to be polite to him. If Lu Li could remember this, then his family would have a better life in the Wei family. Lu Li understood what Wei Yuan meant, but he didn't say anything. Things had not come to that. There was no need to say those things. To create a chance for Lu Li to survive, to send others to their deaths? Luli couldn't bring himself to do something so cruel, even though Hu Lang was just a scapegoat. Of course, Luli wouldn't be so stupid to die with Hu Lang when he was in a desperate situation. That was not brotherhood, but idiocy. If he was in a desperate situation, Luli would try his best to escape and then try his best to avenge Hu Lang and Wei Yuan. Luli would not give up unless he was in a desperate situation. He paced up and down, trying to think of a way. It was a pity that Little White was not here, or else he could have more strength. Little White was not weak. But on second thought, it was a good thing that Little White was not here. He wouldn't drag Little White down with him. Bang, 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 the muffled sounds of explosions were getting louder. It meant that the energy in the underground palace was running out and the inhibition formations were getting weaker. Luli thought about it, but couldn't come up with a solution. He had to take out the skill to make walking puppets and study it. Luli checked an interspatial ring with psychic power. It was put together with a hide scroll. It was a treasure he got from the underground palace, and there seemed to be a beast claw in it. Luli didn't care about it before, but now he was intrigued. He took out the interspatial ring and checked it with psychic power. Buzzing, Luli's eyes suddenly lit up. He was trembling with excitement. Every hair on his body was standing on end, and his face was filled with excitement. What is it? Hu Lang sensed something was wrong with Lu Li and asked. Wei Yuan looked over in confusion as well. Lu Li said nothing. He used Xian energy to dissolve the interspatial ring and then took out the huge beast claw from it. Buzzing, a claw the size of 2 men appeared in the inner hall. The claw was golden in color with many small scales. There were hooks on the claw which looked sharp. It looked like an eagle's claw, but it had 5 claws. The claw was cut off at the wrist, and there were neat cuts on it. The beast claw was powerful. It seemed to have been stored in the interspatial ring for millions of years. But when it came out, the beast's energy and qi were still suffocating. Even Hu Lang felt suffocated. The beast claw. Not long ago, Lu Li and Wei Yuan both checked the beast claw with psychic power. But what they were feeling right now and what they were feeling right now were 2 different things. By psychic power, the beast claw was like the claw of a beast king, even if the claw of a beast king was not precious. However, as soon as Lu Li took out the beast claw, Hu Lang and Wei Yuan had the same thought. This was definitely not a beast claw of a beast king. They had seen beast kings before. Hu Lang had killed one before. A beast claw that had been stored for so many years could make Hu Lang feel suffocated. It was not hard to imagine how powerful the owner of the beast claw must have been. Can it be the legendary claw of a beast god? Hu Lang and Wei Yuan glanced at each other, the same thought appearing in their minds. Chapter 661. Luli didn't care what Hu Lang and Wei Yuan thought of the beast claw. He wouldn't do anything even if the 3 human sovereign realm warriors were to rush in. The only thing he could see was the golden beast claw. His eyes glowed in silver light, and his blood was boiling. The 2 dragon marks in his soul pond and on his fate wheel were glowing in silver light and moving around violently. His bloodline was on a rampage. Every inch of his muscles and his soul were trembling. He had encountered this kind of situation before, and he had encountered it twice. The first time was when he saw a drop of origin blood essence at the Heaven Punishing Auction House at the Heaven Prison City. The second time was when he saw a golden beast claw at the northeast of the Central Plains. That beast claw looked similar to this one, but Luli could tell clearly this beast claw was much more powerful, at least 100 times more powerful. There were 3 drops of origin blood essence in that beast claw, but this one only had 1. But Luli felt this drop of origin blood essence was 100 times more powerful than the other 3. The first time Luli consumed the origin blood essence, he gained a bloodline skill, Dragon's Roar. The second time he consumed the beast claw, he gained another bloodline skill, Blood Claw. Later on, he tried to find this origin blood essence many times. He searched in the national treasury of the Empire of Cloud's Prowess and asked around the Central Plains secretly, but never found it. Today, Finally, he encountered another drop of origin blood essence that could make his bloodline boil. He was excited. What kind of bloodline skill could he get from this drop of origin blood essence that contained such horrifying energy? He couldn't wait to find out. Therefore, Luli took a deep breath, looked at Hu Lang with his beast-like eyes, and said, Hu Lang, later, I will consume this beast claw. Don't touch me. If I roll around in pain, use your force field to contain me. Just don't let me move. Anyways, whatever happens to me, don't mind me. I will be fine. Consume? Hu Lang and Wei Yuan didn't understand what Luli meant. How could such a powerful beast claw be consumed? Not even a holy grade weapon like Hu Lang could destroy it with all his strength. But seeing how serious Luli was, Hu Lang nodded in agreement. Luli paid no more attention to the two. He looked at the beast claw, took out a dagger, and cut his palm. Soon, blood oozed out from his palm and dripped down from his finger onto the huge beast claw. Chi-chi. Just as Luli had expected, white smoke rose from the beast claw. Streaks of golden energy flowed into Luli's hand through his fingers. Then, it surged into his body like a raging river, seeping into every muscle, bone, and flesh. Whoosh! The drop of origin blood essence hidden in the beast's claw rushed into Luli's palm as fast as lightning. A scorching feeling spread throughout Luli's body and soul. Ah! Luli let out a heart-wrenching scream, but he did not let go of the beast's claw. He rolled around on the ground with a ferocious look on his face, as if he was haunted by ghosts. Masterly, young Lord Lu. Hu Lang and Wei Yuan turned pale with fright. Hu Lang wanted to rush over, but Luli's words made him activate force field at once. In the middle of the hall was a coffin that could not be touched. If Luli bumped into the coffin, he would turn into a skeleton. Force field was activated and space was frozen. Luli could not move. He could only make some muffled noises from his throat. Even Hu Lang's eyelids twitched when he saw how painful Luli was. The huge beast's claw melted quickly and turned into golden energy that flowed into Luli's body. A beast claw larger than a human being, a horrifying one, was consumed by Luli. This was so strange that even Hu Lang was speechless. Time moved on. Luli's pain did not lessen at all. Instead, it was getting worse. Luli felt every muscle, every bone, and even his soul were burning. It was a feeling worse than death. It was no less painful than the 3 days and 3 nights at the Wicked Sorcery Mountain. Luckily, the 3 days and 3 nights at the Wicked Sorcery Mountain had given him a strong ability to endure pain. Luli tried his best not to pass out. He wanted to stay awake and take control of the situation and figure out what was going on in his body. The golden energy from the beast's claw was transforming and strengthening his body quickly. He could feel it clearly. Last time, the beast's claw had already strengthened his body. But compared to this, it was nothing. At this rate, Luli didn't even know how strong his body would be in the end. The source of the pain was actually that drop of origin blood essence. The origin blood essence spread out and surged into his body, including his soul. That was why he felt his body and soul were burning. After the time for 3 incense sticks to burn, an hour passed. The beast's claw melted and turned into energy that entered Luli's body. Hu Lang's force field was still being released, suppressing Luli. Since Luli's pain was still there, Hu Lang didn't increase the intensity or else he would have passed out. Luli was soaked in sweat. His expression was ferocious and his muscles were trembling. However, he clenched his teeth and tried his best not to pass out. Hu Lang and Wei Yuan exclaimed to themselves, especially Hu Lang. He had always known that Luli was a freak, but he didn't know that Luli had such strong willpower. Extraordinary people do extraordinary things. Without such qualities, young Masterly wouldn't have made it this far. Hu Lang exclaimed, if a man didn't have good qualities and outstanding abilities, how could he stand out? How could he be chosen by the Grand Master of the Demon-Slaying Hall? How could he rise to the top and make a name for himself at the Great Land? To stand out and to stand at the peak, one must endure pain and loneliness that others could not. If one couldn't do that, then what was the difference between him and a mediocre person. Hu Lang had understood this a long time ago. He could become a human sovereign realm warrior and the overlord of the Silver Wolf Mountain, not because of luck. The world was a realistic place. To gain more, one must pay more. But if one paid more, one might not get what he wanted. If one didn't pay, one would get nothing. Bang, bang, bang. While he was deep in thought, a muffled explosion woke Hu Lang up. The 9 palaces and 8 trigrams pattern on the gate dimmed down. Clearly, the inhibition formation on the gate was about to be broken. The ancient art of sealing formation was losing its effect. Wei Yuan came back to his senses. He looked at the gate, and then to Lu Li, who was still in pain. Wei Yuan panicked and said to Hu Lang, "Lord Hu, young master Lu cannot run away like this. The gate is about to be broken. What should we do?" Hu Lang was troubled. He looked at Lu Li and hesitated for more than a dozen breaths. Finally, he made up his mind and said, "If young Master Li hasn't recovered when the gate is broken, carry him on your back and find a chance to get out. I will take care of the rest." But Wei Yuan was hesitating. He had made up his mind to create a chance for Lu Li to run away at all costs. But could Lu Li leave on his own in this state? Wei Yuan thought about it and said, "Okay, if I cannot, I will try my best to throw young Master Lu into the tunnel." Chapter 662. Bang, bang, bang. In the outer hall of the underground palace, the 3 human sovereign realm warriors kept releasing Xian energy at a gate. Of the 3, one of them was bald and eye-catching. It was Recluse Solar Dragon. One of the other 2 was a strong man with a beard that made him look like a gangster. The other one was a skinny old man in a black robe. "Faster. We're going to open it soon." Recluse Solar Dragon noticed that the glow on the gate was dimming down. A glint of viciousness rose in his eyes as he was filled with killing intent. In his other hand, he took out a golden iron rod in case the people inside would come out. The burly man took out a huge shield, while the short old man took out a purple longbow. Half of his body was hidden behind the burly man. Clearly, the old man was a man who liked sneak attacks and dirty tactics. The 3 of them kept on attacking with Xian energy, which would save them energy and energy. The gate was about to be opened. They didn't need more time. Lu Li and Hu Lang were right. Not only did they know that the Wei family and the great Buddhist temple would not be here soon, they also knew that the reinforcement would arrive in half a month because they had destroyed all the teleportation formations at the Island of Tranquility. Without teleportation formations, it would take at least half a month for Earth Immortal Realm warriors to arrive. The only exception would be the warriors of the demon-slaying hall who had spatial transference. Therefore, Recluse Solar Dragon and the other 2 were not in a hurry. The gate was about to be opened. They could attack for 4 or 5 days, and they wouldn't get bored. "Bastard, when the gate is opened, I will let you have a good time and then cut you into pieces," Recluse Solar Dragon said, clenching his teeth. The other 2 human sovereign realm warriors looked at each other and felt goosebumps. They didn't show it, but they were disgusted. Boom, boom, boom. They didn't look at Recluse Solar Dragon. They focused on attacking the gate. Their mission was to kill Lu Li. As for how, it didn't matter. In the inner hall, Hu Lang and Wei Yuan were still staring at Lu Li. The pain in Lu Li's eyes was still there. The 2 of them felt their hearts weighed down. Hu Lang was aware of Lu Li's speed. If Lu Li was fine, Hu Lang and Wei Yuan could rush out together. Given Lu Li's speed, there was a 70% chance that he could escape. On the other hand, Lu Li had not recovered yet. If Wei Yuan were to take him away, their chances would be reduced. It was highly likely that all 3 of them would die in there. The problem was, other than being anxious, what else could Hu Lang do? Boom, boom, boom. The muffled explosion of the gate was getting louder and louder, and the light was getting dimmer and dimmer. It was estimated that the gate would explode in an hour at most. 1 incense sticks time, 2 incense sticks time. What relieved Hu Lang and Wei Yuan was that Lu Li finally looked better, but his eyes were still closed and his face was pale. It seemed he had consumed too much of his energy that he could not even keep his eyes open. Master Li, Hu Lang deactivated his domain and strode over to inquire about the situation. Lu Li didn't open his eyes. He waved his hand and didn't say anything. Hu Lang swallowed the rest of his sentence. Wei Yuan, keep an eye on young Master Li. Find a chance to escape later. Hu Lang looked at Wei Yuan, who nodded and walked over to stand next to Lu Li. Hu Lang walked to the gate with his axe in his hand, waiting for the moment the gate could be broken open. Lu Li seemed to be too weak. Hu Lang was afraid that he could not escape on his own. Hu Lang felt he was under more pressure. He must try his best to suppress the 3 human sovereign realm warriors outside at once, so that Wei Yuan could take Lu Li away. Boom, 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 boom. The noise outside the gate was getting louder and louder. Hu Lang mobilized his Xian energy. The axe in his hand glowed, and his eyes were filled with coldness. Hu Lang was like a beast that was about to devour someone. Wei Yuan was nervous. He was ready to grab Lu Li and run out at any time. He wore an inner armor on his body and a battle armor on the outside. However, both of them were heaven-grade Xian artifacts. He was not afraid of death. He was just afraid that he could not get Lu Li out. Lu Li was still half dead. He could not open his eyes, and he was lying on the ground. He was so weak that he could not even sit up. Boom! After the time for 1 incense stick to burn, the gate finally exploded. Many pieces were flying around. A gust of wind blew in. Many of the pieces were shot toward Hu Lang, Wei Yuan, and Lu Li like hidden weapons. Boy, Hu Lang didn't try to dodge. The moment the gate was about to explode, he swung his axe like a windmill. Xianxi in heaven and earth converged toward him. A black beast shadow came into being in front of him and dashed out, roaring. Hu Lang's timing was precise. The 3 outside saw that the gate had just exploded. Before they could send their psychic power in, a beast shadow whooshed out. Recluse Solar Dragon, who was at the front, was the first to bear the brunt. He could not dodge and was hit by the beast. Bang! Recluse Solar Dragon released a light shield at the critical moment, but he was still smashed away. Blood came out of his mouth in midair. He didn't seem to be fatally wounded, but he must have been badly injured. Roar! Hu Lang rushed out like a ferocious lion. His giant axe rapidly grew in size as he swung it towards the head of the palace lord of the Crystal Palace, Zhao Moyang. There was a dark cyan airflow around the axe head and a golden glare on the blade. Clearly, Hu Lang had used the power of metal. Wei Yuan. The moment Hu Lang dashed out, he shouted. Wei Yuan came back to his senses. He grabbed Lu Li with one hand and released his bead of life. Like a fox, he dashed toward the exit in the corner. Aha! Zhao Moyang didn't move. He just raised his shield high and tried to defend himself against Hu Lang's attack. Bang! Hu Lang swung his axe down furiously. Recluse Solar Dragon was injured and was forced back temporarily. If he could injure Zhao Moyang, he would be able to stall the remaining human sovereign realm warrior. That would give Wei Yuan enough time to escape to the exit. Clearly, Hu Lang was overthinking. Whoosh! Zhao Moyang's feet glowed as a dark cyan arrow came at him. The arrow could bend as if it had soul. It was silent and fast. There was no way Hu Lang could dodge it. Bang! Bang! Almost at the same time, Hu Lang's axe landed on Zhao Moyang's shield, and the arrow hit Hu Lang as well. The shield in Zhao Moyang's hand flew out of his hand. Zhao Moyang was forced to stagger backward by a tremendous force, and only regained his balance after retreating for a few hundred feet. Poof! The armor on Hu Lang's chest was cracked. How could a holy grade armor not be able to stop the arrow? Even though the arrow didn't penetrate completely into Hu Lang's body, it did go in by an inch. The force hurt Hu Lang's internal organs. You want to run? Great Patriarch Liang of the Alliance of Stars sneered at Wei Yuan, who dashed out from a door. Seeing that Lu Li's eyes were closed and his face was pale, Liang grinned and said, Solar Dragon, I will take the credit. Hoi hoi. Liang pulled her about twice in a row. The purple bow glowed. 2 black arrows, one in front and one behind, were shot toward Lu Li and Wei Yuan respectively with a destructive force. Young Master Li. Hu Lang's body was still being pushed back by the powerful force of the long sword. Seeing this scene, he immediately roared in terror. If Lu Li didn't wake up, he would be killed by the arrow. P.S. Give me some recommendation tickets on Monday. Chapter 663. Lu Li didn't open his eyes, but Wei Yuan was scared out of his wits. He could feel the power contained in the two arrows. Also, the two arrows could track people, and they would not stop until they hit their targets. In that split of a second, Wei Yuan had made up his mind. He could not run away, given his speed. He looked at Lu Li, who was still in his hand, and made up his mind. He didn't throw Lu Li to the exit, because the two arrows were aimed at him and Lu Li. Even if he could throw Lu Li away, Lu Li would be hit. He took out his interspatial ring in a flash and threw it into Lu Li's robe. Then, he hid Lu Li behind his back while he faced the two arrows coming at him. Bang! The two arrows hit Wei Yuan one after the other. The first arrow instantly tore apart Wei Yuan's inner armor and pierced through his body, getting stuck in his bones. Boom! The second arrow was aimed at Lu Li. Since Lu Li was behind Wei Yuan, the arrow would have to go through him. Therefore, the arrow went through Wei Yuan's body again. This time, Wei Yuan didn't have armor to protect him. His body exploded into a mist of blood. Lu Li was smashed away by the strong force. He rolled on the ground for more than a dozen times. Still, he lay there motionlessly as if he had passed out. Liang, go to hell. Hu Lang's eyes were wide open. He swung his axe like a windmill and generated another beast shadow that whooshed toward Liang. Liang was not an idiot. He had always been used to fighting in an obscene way. People like him never liked to fight with enemies in the open. He slid away like a loach and hid behind Zhao Moyang again. Hu Lang, do you really think you can survive today? What can you do even if Lu Li can get out? All the teleportation formations have been destroyed. Nobody can save you. The island of tranquility will be your burial ground. Zhao Moyang moved forward fearlessly. In his eyes, there was a cruel smile and pleasure. Killing Lu Li would give them a chance to stage a comeback. They would lose the Serenity Plains, but they could gain a region at the Central Plains and become the master of a region. It would be better than being the overlord of the Serenity Plains. They were bewitched by Ji Mengyao to join hands with the Black Tortoise Hall and the Yama Hall to attack the Cloud State. However, they failed miserably. Almost all of their people were slaughtered by the wolves, and they lost all their territory in the Serenity State. The Ji clan and the Nether sect did not mistreat them. The Ji family made it clear that if they could kill Lu Li and Hu Lang this time, they would help them conquer a region at the Central Plains and protect them for 1,000 years. Naturally, they were not fools. They had prepared a backup plan to prevent the Ji family and the Nether sect from burning the bridge after crossing it. This was their only chance. Only by killing Lu Li and Hu Lang could they make a comeback and become an overlord again. They could enjoy supreme authority and endless resources. Boom! Hu Lang's giant beast shadow smashed heavily against Zhao Moyang's shield. The space around him was slightly distorted, and a terrifying shockwave swept out in all directions. Zhao Moyang was smashed away. Blood seeped out from his arm, but he didn't mind. They had 3 human sovereign realm warriors, and Hu Lang was alone. Zhao Moyang and Recluse Solar Dragon were both at the middle stage of the human sovereign realm. Li Yang's attacks were vicious and cruel. Hu Lang had just reached the middle stage of the human sovereign realm not long ago. There was no turning back now. Zhao Moyang, Recluse Solar Dragon flew over from the other side. He shouted to Zhao Moyang, "Let's kill Hu Lang together. Liang, go and kill Lu Li first." Recluse Solar Dragon was wounded by Hu Lang's sneak attack, but he was not seriously injured. He had recovered a bit. He swung his rod at Hu Lang from the left. "Go to hell." Zhao Moyang sprang up like a ferocious tiger. He waved his hand, and the shield flew back to his front. He swung a saber with sawtooth in his other hand and charged at Hu Lang from the right. One on the left, and the other on the right, a pincer attack. Whoosh! Liang sneaked out from behind, Zhao Moyang like a viper, and dashed toward Lu Li. The bow in his hand glowed. This time, he shot 3 arrows at Lu Li, who was lying in the corner. Young masterly, Hu Lang was pincered from the left and the right. He could barely protect himself, and he could not take care of Lu Li. His roar echoed in the hall, deafening everyone. The 3 arrows were shot toward Lu Li like 3 ferocious vipers. They were fast and contained horrifying strength. Even with the holy grade armor, Luli could still be killed by the arrows. If the arrows hit Hu Lang's head, it would explode instantly. Buzzing at this moment, Luli finally opened his eyes. He had to because he sensed a fatal threat. His eyes were still glowing in a cold light. He was like a beast in human form. Looking at the two arrows coming at him, there was no panic in his eyes. They were as calm as still water. Buzzing, Lu Li's right hand suddenly glowed. With a silver glare, countless tiny scales covered his hand. His hand grew larger and his fingers longer. His nails were hooked. Lu Li had released his blood claw bloodline skill. Boy, one of the arrows had arrived. Lu Li grabbed at it with his blood claw and crushed the arrow into dust. The other two arrows followed, but Lu Li also crushed them easily. This claw is so strong. The arrows contained great strength, but they couldn't do any harm to the claw. Liang put away his bow and took out a long and narrow saber. He was ready to cut off Lu Li's head. No matter how strong Lu Li's claw was, the fact that he was at the peak of the eternal realm could not be changed. Below the human sovereign realm, there was a difference between a giant man and a baby. Human sovereign realm warriors had force field. Your name is Liang? Lu Li stood up. Looking at Liang, who was approaching him, Lu Li said with a straight face, "When we go to hell, tell Yama that I killed you." Ha ha ha. Liang acted as if he had heard the funniest joke in the world. He flew over quickly. When he was about 300 feet away from Lu Li, he activated his force field and froze the space where Lu Li was. Go to hell. He swung his saber at Lu Li's neck in a half-moon arc, trying to decapitate Lu Li. Roar! Right at that moment, from Lu Li's stomach came a muffled dragon's roar. Even though the roar seemed to come from his stomach, it was horrifying, as if a real dragon was roaring. Buzzing, Lu Li's back was glaring. A surge of horrifying chi and energy spread out from his back and enveloped the entire outer hall. Zhao Moyang and Recluse Solar Dragon, who were fighting fiercely, stopped and looked over in surprise. How? Hu Lang also glanced over, and a look of astonishment appeared in the eyes of the three of them. They saw a shadow of a silver dragon with 5 claws behind Lu Li. The dragon was roaring silently, hovering around and whooshing up to the sky. Although there wasn't any sound, everyone was shocked by it. At that moment, they felt it was not a shadow of a dragon, but a real one. That was a being that was more powerful than a beast king and comparable to a legendary beast god. It was as if they had become defenseless and insignificant children facing a giant lion the size of a small mountain. The impact and shock to their hearts was unparalleled. Apart from the shock, the 4 human sovereign realm warriors were confused. That dragon whooshed up and disappeared in midair. Was it an illusion? No. In the next second, Liang screamed in terror. The space above his head suddenly fluctuated violently, and a huge silver claw reached out from within, abruptly pressing down on him. Chapter 664. The beast claw was several meters long and had 5 sharp claws. Each claw was covered with silver scales and emitted a cold, metallic aura. The claw didn't seem to be an illusion at all. It was a real beast claw that reached out from the void and crushed Liang into a pulp. Hu Lang, Zhao Moyang, and Recluse Solar Dragon all had the same feeling when they saw the silver dragon. That was not an illusion, but a real divine dragon, the god of all beasts. Dragon. That was a myth from ancient times. It was said that dragons were the god of beasts, the most powerful Xian beasts. That being said, legends were legends. For millions of years, nobody had seen a real dragon. Although many secret techniques and people's attacks could imitate divine dragons, they were still imitations after all. Just now, the 3 of them saw a living dragon. They saw a dragon claw reach out from the void, and then crush a Run Huang into minced meat with an unstoppable force. They could not fight back, could only wait for death. That dragon claw was like the hand of a god. Hu Lang, Zhao Moyang and Recluse Solar Dragon felt they could not fight back, and that once they were touched, they would die for sure. Their teeth were chattering, and they felt cold, just like when they saw a powerful Xian beast for the first time when they were kids. That kind of invincible power terrified them and made them lose the will to fight. After the dragon claw killed Li Yong, it dissipated in midair. It was proof that the dragon claw was just an illusion, a secret skill, not a real dragon claw. After the time, for 3 breaths, Hu Lang, Zhao Moyang, and Recluse Solar Dragon finally came back to their senses. The 3 of them looked at Lu Li at once. When they saw a pair of silver eyes with 2 silver dragons hovering in them, they were shocked at the same time. Good, Hu Lang yelled. He came to his senses. The silver dragon and the dragon claw didn't come out of nowhere. It was Lu Li's skill. What? Zhao Moyang and Recluse Solar Dragon looked at each other with fear in their eyes. The 2 of them found it difficult to advance or retreat. Li Yong had been killed by a single claw. Could they block that earth-shattering claw? Fight? Escape? While the 2 were hesitating, Lu Li walked over in strides. His momentum was rising. He shouted coldly, Hu Lang, what are you waiting for? Do it. Today, this underground palace will be their burial ground. All right. Hu Lang spun his gigantic axe like a windmill. In his other hand, a gigantic black net appeared. Clearly, it was a magic treasure. Hu Lang wanted to trap the 2 of them and keep them there. Roar! From Lu Li's abdomen came a dragon's roar. Then his back glowed in silver light as a huge silver dragon shadow scuttled out from his back, brandishing its claws and fangs. It roared soundlessly and flew up as if it was going to fly away. Run! Zhao Moyang and Recluse Solar Dragon could no longer stay calm. Just now, after the shadow of a dragon appeared, a huge dragon claw came down from the sky and crushed Li Yong to death. If the 2 of them did not escape, they would also become a pile of minced meat. Bang! Recluse Solar Dragon struck Hu Lang back with his staff, then transformed into a beam of light and rushed into the tunnel together with Zhao Moyang. Hu Lang chased after them in rage, only to see Lu Li standing still. Hu Lang looked at Lu Li with doubt. Why didn't Lu Li release the dragon claw? If he had done so, he could have killed another person. Poof! Lu Li trembled. He spat out some blood. He dropped to one knee and supported himself with his hands. Blood gushed out from his mouth, and his face turned pale. Young Master Li, Hu Lang was frightened. He flew over and stood next to Lu Li. He took out a pellet and was about to feed it to Lu Li. Hu Lang used Xian energy in his other hand to help Lu Li adjust the chaotic qi and energy in his body. Don't worry about that. Let's get out of here and find a safe place. Lu Li looked up with difficulty. He felt his eyelids were as heavy as mountains. He only had time to finish his sentence before his vision went black, and he fainted on the ground. Hu Lang finally understood why Lu Li didn't release the dragon claw a second time. The second time was a bluff. He could not do it, and he only wanted to scare off Recluse Solar Dragon and Zhao Moyang. I think the 2 of them have run away. Hu Lang fed Lu Li a pellet. After the time for 20 breaths, he carried Lu Li on his back and flew toward the exit. Given Zhao Moyang and Recluse Solar Dragon's speed, they should be more than 30 miles away in the time for 20 breaths. Hu Lang appeared in the crack with Lu Li on his back. He used psychic power to the limit to make sure that Zhao Moyang and Recluse Solar Dragon were not hiding nearby. He was relieved and flew up with Lu Li on his back. Okay, above the crack, Hu Lang still didn't see the 2 hiding. He dared not to stay any longer. He flew toward the north as fast as he could. The fact that Lu Li didn't attack just now was a huge flaw. Recluse Solar Dragon and Zhao Moyang were smart. Although they were scared off just now, they would soon come back to their senses and chase after Ji Hao. Theoretically speaking, they should be heading toward the Central Plains. Therefore, Hu Lang didn't go to the west or the Clouds Plains or the Serenity Plains. He wanted to buy some time to make it harder for them to catch up. Something is wrong. Hu Lang was right. More than 300 miles to the east of the island, Recluse Solar Dragon suddenly stopped in midair. In front of him, Zhao Moyang glanced at him in confusion. He stopped and asked, "What's wrong?" "We have been tricked." Recluse Solar Dragon made up his mind and said, "That punk is bluffing. He can't kill us. How is that possible?" Zhao Moyang was still hesitating. He killed Li Yong in one move. Recluse Solar Dragon sneered and said, "The moment we ran away, he had the chance to kill one of us. Why didn't he? A warrior at the peak of the Eternal Realm can learn a powerful skill. Can he release it twice in a row? I even think he didn't do it himself. How can a warrior at the peak of the Eternal Realm use such a powerful skill? Such a skill should be famous in the Heaven Reverse universe. Have you read about it in the history books?" What? Zhao Moyang's eyes flickered. He was having doubts. After all, it was shocking to hear that a warrior at the peak of the Eternal Realm could release such a powerful skill. Recluse Solar Dragon's analysis made sense. Zhao Moyang made up his mind and said, "Then let's go back and have a look." Since the mission was not accomplished, they wouldn't have the chance to be rewarded. They would be chased around the world like two stray dogs. "Let's go back." Recluse Solar Dragon made up his mind. He trusted his judgment. He turned around and flew back to the island. Zhao Moyang went after him after some thoughts. "There is blood." After returning to the ground crack of the small island, Recluse Solar Dragon saw a drop of fresh blood at the edge of the crack. He quickly rushed into the crack and entered the underground palace again. "We have been tricked." Recluse Solar Dragon flew into a rage when he saw the blood Lu Li spat out. Zhao Moyang was furious as well. How could they be scared off by a young punk? They can't go far. Let's go. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.